Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Thursday. Oh, it is Thursday, and it is June the 25th. And last night, America kicked off the 250th celebration of our country's birthday, which is going to be celebrated for several weeks. And it was kicked off by a national anthem sung by the young lady who is suing me for $5 million. That apparently is news to some of you. So if you didn't know, me and this program are being sued for $5 million for a throwaway statement that was made in August of last year and corrected before I was sued. And the interesting thing about all of that, I suppose, is that the young lady who did the singing and the suing is supposedly in a well-established public relationship with the director of the FBI, which is my ex-girlfriend, the FBI is. And so she's found herself front and center, always referred to as the girlfriend of Kash Patel, which we often refer to as the girl who is a friend. There's no legal standing for a girlfriend. They don't cohabitate. And we're dealing with this bizarre moment where this poor young lady who's 27 years old has basically done everything she could to become a celebrity and a star for the last 17 years. And she never really had the star quality or power that maybe it would take to be that thing. And by being forced into the American public's awareness and attention span, might have undone all of the good PR that was being done, kind of like we saw some of this weird things with the Mormons coming out and screaming about how they're also Christians and you're not a real Christian if you don't believe in them being Christians. And they undid a bunch of PR work. I'm seeing a lot of people lack self-reflection. And maybe that's a good metaphor for what the Trump administration is doing at this point. And the reflecting pool is as good of a reason to reflect on it as anything. Right now, if you guys go out on any social media, what you're going to see are two things. You're going to see the Jim Acostas, you're going to see the left-leaning medias go out and do bizarre, quote-unquote, fake investigations, looking for things, showing the algae in the water of this pool that was renovated and cost us $13 or $15 million and was done on a no-bid contract and apparently came out on behalf of some Trump donor or whatever. All that stuff. It's not even that much money in the federal budget, which is shocking. The other thing what you'll see is that there's a bunch of right-wing, sort of right-leaning, right-marketed influencer types that are taking pictures and they're showing the reflecting pool at only special hours. So early in the morning when the light is low, late in the evening when the light is low, so you can't see the bottom of the pool and it all just looks like a reflection, which is what it's meant to do. And it looks beautiful because it's water and doesn't matter how scummy or disgusting the water is. Any of you have ever been to intercoastal waterways that are full of scum and grossness and stuff, or you've ever been to the ocean and you look and it's brown like it is in Galveston, Texas, or most of the Gulf of America when you're in the Texas side of it. And then the water gets, sort of hit with the light just right. And you're like, oh, it's beautiful. It reflects like a mirror. This inability to just take things as they are and just be honest about them, the inability to reflect on things and look back and go, are we really serving the people? Are we doing the thing that we promised? Or do they have a reason to be irritated and frustrated with us? It goes back to this ongoing issue, and it might be Donald Trump's whole life, and it's become this administration's sort of MO. Donald Trump was always big on announcements, big on branding, and maybe low on the follow-through in the performance. He's a guy that would rather coat something in gold than give you something made of gold. And I think that's exactly what we're getting in this 2.0 presidency. We were promised a lot of really, really good stuff and things that people like me I'm not a Republican, but I'm definitely a conservative, and I want smaller government, reduce costs, get rid of people that don't belong here, lower inflation by getting government out of our business and allowing things to kind of prosper on their own. And instead, what we've got is the announcement of the plan is the success of the plan. The announcement of success is considered the success. Don't worry about any follow through. And I've got some really, really kind of poignant, funny examples that come from my personal experience that we're going to be able to show you. And you guys are going to be able to see this. And all I want people to do is be aware of it. And then I also want you to be aware that there's this ongoing messaging campaign to say that because somebody else failed, and the alternative to this failing people who sort of lean your way and message your way, if you don't give them more power, if you don't give them credibility, despite the fact that they're lying to you, then you're in fact on the other side of people who you would never align with anyway, and you have nothing to do with. Communists, socialists, people that are advocating completely unhinged ideas about America and clearly don't want the thing that you want. So your choices are either go with this shitty group of people that lies to you and refuses to do the thing that they actually said they would do, in which case you would actually celebrate them, or you're going to be lumped in with the people who you would never have any association with in the first place. And even though you've had our president come out and many members of this administration, as well as people who are sort of like the mouthpieces of this administration and this movement, tell you that if you're not with us, piss off, we don't care, get out of here. They're now out there trying to shame you and beg you and bully you and badger you into believing that you have this false binary. Again, the major problem I continue to see is whenever Republicans are stuck in the majority and they are fighting and they are in the opposition, they're happy to talk about a uniparty and two heads of the same snake and there are two wings on the same bat and that there is no difference, and that permanent Washington is the enemy. And the minute they get in, they go, well, now it's our permanent Washington and we're going to go out there and defend it, which is the same sort of argument that you would make if you had zero principle whatsoever and you were just going to argue that messaging success is the same as actually having success. That's a real frustrating topic, and I grabbed a ton of different clips. We're going to dig a little bit more into the housing bill, which I kind of offhandedly mentioned I knew was bad without even looking into it. I knew it was bad because I could see who was supporting it. Well, guess what? Donald Trump actually did a good thing by not signing it, as far as I can tell. And the craziest part about it is all of the swamp creatures, all of the people that are in permanent Washington that won't do reform because they are the same people, those people are all upset about it. And there are people on the left and there are people on the right and there's shouting matches about it. And apparently he's the big bad guy. The funny thing is I voted for that Donald Trump that goes in and goes, you guys are scum. I'm not going to sign off on this. I'm not going to be a party to it. And occasionally he accidentally does these things. So we'll give him kudos where they're due. We're also going to point out that most of this stuff ends up being a sad and frustrating lie. And since we're going to be talking about water, and we're going to be talking about reflecting pools, we'll go and talk about my friends over at Cove Pure real quickly. In light of the 250th celebration of America, I don't know if we're dealing with a funeral or a birthday because we're kind of looking at this republic not being the thing that we hoped it would be. 250 years later, we're still drinking whatever water our government has decided to put in. And maybe there's algae in there, and maybe there's organic matter, or maybe there's fluoride in there, which they put in there to help your teeth, and chlorine, which we use to bleach things and keep things clean and smells like you're drinking out of a pool. If you've ever drank a bunch of pool water, you know that it can have a pretty fun effect on your GI tract. Well, this is not necessarily a decision you have to leave up to the government or anybody else. And if you listen to this program, you probably don't trust them. Maybe you want to make a choice to be able to drink water that you like. Over 209 million Americans are on fluorinated water right now. That is, or fluoridated water, I guess is what it's called. That's coming in from the tap. There's a lot of things that science shows about it. A recent study confirmed that fluoride exposure can be linked to lower IQ scores in children. That's not a fringe study. It comes from JAMA Pediatrics, the Journal of American Medicine. This is one of the most respected journals in the world. Chlorine's not even the worst part. It's what happens when it interacts with things that are already in the water. And that's plants and soil and all the kind of stuff we've seen in the reflecting pool. The chemical byproducts can turn into probable human carcinogens called DHMs. They can be linked to disruption of your gut and future cancer and all kinds of other problems. And there are states that are trying to fix this, and Utah and Florida may be doing that, but it does take years, and there's a big uphill process. There's a lot of infrastructure. So if you are drinking water that you're not really thrilled about right now, maybe you can just smell it, and you know it's not good. In my area, it smells like sulfur. Check out Cove Pure. We have one for our kids. It sits upstairs in their bathroom. They have access to it at all times. It's at kid height, so they can push the buttons, and it removes 99.9% of contaminants, fluoride, THMs, pharmaceuticals, PFAs, microplastics, all kinds of other stuff that doesn't get filtered out in your normal water and that you're getting anyway. Go to covepure.com/KYLE, covepure.com/KYLE. You'll get $250 off for the American 250th. Hopefully, this is not the last birthday that we have. I don't think it will be, but I don't know if it's going to be something worth celebrating. You can celebrate by getting some water that tastes like water, which is nice. It really is. Check out covepure.com/KYLE. There's a link in today's show description. If you scroll down, either you're listening on the app or you are watching on one of the video platforms, check them out. Let's get into today's program, and we'll start it right now. All right. So I grabbed a million clips. Not a million, but I grabbed a lot of clips. And I want to play a bunch of them, and many of them are going to be as we reflect. I'm looking at like how many there are. There must be like 25 clips in here. So we're going to get into a lot of it. I have less in the printed news articles, although I have a handful of those as well. So we'll start off, I guess, with this is a clip of the kickoff of the song that this woman apparently sings for a living. We're talking about the country music sensation who's done more in her life than many of you will do in 10 lifetimes, whatever that means, per the FBI director, who celebrated Family Day yesterday. The FBI's headquarters edition of what's called Family Day, kind of like Bring Your Family to Work Day. It's a family picnic day. And it revealed one of the great lies, which is that we're going to announce something, and then that's the entirety of the victory. Let's start off with national anthem. We're a patriotic sort of thing. We're real patriotic. We're not nostalgia patriotic. So we actually would like the country that we should have, not the one that we're pretending that we have. Here is this young lady kicking it off. She looks very nice. She looks very pretty. And this is a very workmanlike rendition of the national anthem. I'm not going to shade on it. There's a lot of people that are like, I brought my ears. It sounds like sound. It doesn't sound terrible. It's just, like it's as good as what you'd hear at a high school football game. It's as good as what you'd hear if you went to some off-season random minor league baseball park and they had some gal that was like one of the neighbors of the, broadcaster's kids was going to sing. She sings fine. She's not impressive. She's not amazing. She holds a note too long trying to do something. She doesn't have the low range and the power to be able to get it down there. I looked this up. I actually asked the AI. I was like, what key was this in? It's in B flat. And apparently this is the key that everybody does it in. So there you go. You can tell at the bottom end, it's just not there. Here we go. It's the hand thing that gets me. I don't know what we're doing with that. See, no low end. It's not that. It really isn't. This is unnecessary. It isn't bad. It's not. There's more look than there is ability, and the long note, not impressive. Just sing the song as it was written, or if you're going to do some kind of churched up version of it, then you need your own band. So that's not what's going to happen with the, it looks like the Marine Corps band maybe behind there. But that wasn't the worst thing that was ever done. And I love that song. It's one of my favorites. Like, it'll bring me to tears if it's done right. And you got to have the low end of it. And they mic'd it improperly, which is also really frustrating. Like, you gotta have somebody that's running the board there to be able to boost the low end of it, but it's not there. The worst thing that could happen for this poor gal was to find out that she's just kind of mediocre. She's not, I don't think she's probably a terrible person. I don't think that she has the chops to be a national level singer, and people are playing her songs out there, and they're pointing out that she's got 5,800, monthly streams on Spotify at this point, and there's not very many people that listen to her, and like 5,800 people listen to any given episode of this podcast, on Spotify or on the audio platforms kind of deal. So, it's just not there. And that's kind of sad, because I don't think it's her fault that she got thrust into this. I really don't. And I want to be as courteous and kind about that as possible. What I will say is that the people that made that happen, they are to blame. And one of the reasons they're to blame is because they're part of this lying administration that continues to tell us that the announcement is the success. This is a massive problematic theme. I'm watching our chat right now. Hold on, I'm going to skip you over to the chat. The chat is saying she's terrible. She's not terrible. How many of you guys sang? I sang in men's chorus when I was in high school. I sang in choirs growing up for a long time. My wife pointed out the other day, she was like, "You sang in a band when you were in college." I did. It was before the internet, luckily, or at least before the internet was like posting things. I don't think there's any recordings of me singing. I'm sure I had some nights where I was crushing it, and there were some nights when I didn't. All right. So here's where the issue comes in for me. This is a tweet from, and yes, we continue to go back to X, but it is a great document of what happened. This is FBI Director Kash Patel, June the 28th, so roughly a year ago, almost exactly. And he's saying, proud to host the FBI's Family Day, where the next generation of patriots get a front row seat to the mission of protecting this country. This is bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Grateful for the families who support the men and women of the FBI every single day. Yeah, he has to be grateful to them because he has no family of his own. He has no children of his own. You'll notice on the screen right here, as I click in these sort of like patriotic buntings, and there's American flaggy stuff going on. And he's wearing tactical pants, which is embarrassing in and of itself. This is the courtyard of the J. Edgar Hoover building. All right. This is the overhang of the J. Edgar Hoover building. And what you're seeing right there behind him is there's a pillar. So you guys are watching. You can see it if you're listening. There's a massive overhang. It probably goes maybe 25, 30 feet, maybe more. And underneath there's a roadway that allows the director's detail to drive in. And generally speaking, there's a vehicle you see parked right there. You'll find parts of the director's detail, like, what are they called? Suburbans. I guess now they have BMWs. But this is where you would normally have the kind of staged vehicles for the director to disappear on. And there's a Starbucks just over, like closest to me on the screen if you were looking backwards. I've been in this building a whole bunch. I used to have key card access to go here. So when I see pictures of the courtyard of the J. Edgar Hoover building, I know it's the courtyard. When I see pictures from the upper deck where the gym is, like, I know what it is. There's the Starbucks back there, or what used to be the Starbucks. Maybe they changed it. Right over the top of Kash Patel's head. So I'm just showing you that because in June of last year, we had Family Day, and it was at the Hoover building. And then some of you will recall that there was this big nugget that was dropped on us. Is it funny to say that? It's kind of funny to say the big nugget. There was this big nugget that we got. And it was an announcement that was a fulfillment after several months of waiting and being promised a day one removal of the FBI from the Hoover building. Day one, I'm going to shut it down, and we're going to open it up as a museum to the deep state, and we're going to do business that is like nothing anyone's ever seen. We're going to come in and we're going to change it up, and we're going to fix this bureau, and we were all on board with it. And I am one of those people that was on board with it, and I've had to eat those words so many times. Here's the big nugget. I'm going to ask you all to remember it.
You know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget there.
But we want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
Okay. That was the big nugget. And I think we showed you from the Oversight Project that Cash says the same exact words that we heard from some of the other directors. We heard Jim Comey say it, and we heard Chris Wray say it. The big nugget is we're leaving the Hoover building, and this was right around the time that this was filmed, so that makes sense, you know. Now we're a year later, and the announcement has been that they have left the Hoover building. And so you ask yourself the question, has that happened? And this has to do with the story or the moment of the director's girlfriend singing the national anthem yesterday. Because in addition to singing the national anthem and wearing a very pretty white jacket, which was too long for her fingers, I don't really know what that style is, but whatever, it's nice looking. We've got Family Day, FBI Family Day. And that was announced, today is the 25th. This is from June the 24th. It was announced yesterday. It's got 117, almost 120,000 views. And only 2,000 people liked it. So she's getting the same kind of engagement that I do. That's unfortunate. FBI Family Day. A couple problems with FBI Family Day. Number one, you'd think it's be for families, and they are not family. This is a girl who is his friend. Legally speaking, she's a random girl. My buddy Steve Friend pointed out the other day, this is the equivalent of they have a paper contract that could be, do you like me, yes or no? That's a famous country song, right? Check yes or no. Great song. Where are they standing right there? Oh, that is the second deck of the freaking Hoover building. And I know it because you can recognize the same pillars that are below, the stuff that's going on to the left that you probably can't see on the screen, but there's some CrossFit equipment up there because there's a gym that overlooks the courtyard. This is also at the Hoover building. It's the same exact stone. And there's the Hoover building's courtyard. There's the stairs that go up. There's the overhang that they were on before. There's some really weird, like big head Washington senators, I guess. Maybe they have multiple different mascots, but they're standing in front of this memorial looking thing that hangs out there. This is the freaking Hoover building. So I want you to just hear it. We're making a big announcement. We've left, this FBI is leaving the Hoover building. A year later, they haven't left the Hoover building because everything these people end up doing is full of shit. And it's not everything, obviously, but I'm being hyperbolic. But a lot of this stuff is the announcement of success equals the success. Don't look it into any further. We're going to announce that there's going to be the greatest, largest deportation operation in American history, but don't look into it any further because at some point we're going to just give up on it. And when we stop doing it, we're still going to claim that we said it and that we're going to do it. We're going to tell you that we're going to end inflation and things are going to get better for a little while. Then we're going to go start a war for no particular reason. And when we do, the problem is going to be, oh, shoot. Now inflation is back up. And I'll tell you, and I told you guys I would do it when it happened. There was a lot of people that were crying about this. Well, you weren't celebrating the low gas prices. You weren't crying about it under Biden. I've done entire programs talking about gas prices when Biden was president, and they were atrocious. And they hit people's pocketbooks, including mine and yours. And so diesel is now down to about $4.05 a gallon at the cheap places around me. It was down to about $3.15 and maybe in the $3.15, $3.20, sometimes a little bit less. So it's a little bit less than $1 more than it was before the Iran kickoff. Now it got as bad as $5.50 where I am, and I'm just able to see what I see. Donald Trump went out and cheered on himself saying, gas prices are going to drop down to $2.50 around this country. Well, that's not impressive for those of us that live in Texas where gas prices were $2.17, were $2.14 a gallon before you went and picked a fight with Iran. And then the saddest thing is that they're going out there and celebrating like an anniversary of this country, 250 years. And instead of having a real celebration, and instead of having something that we can all get behind and go, you don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a Trump supporter, you don't have to be a MAGA person. You can just go, this is cool. America is great. We got this bullshit campaign rally last night that was really only geared towards a few people who were going to be excited about it. And it turns out it's not even the majority of the country. And disingenuous coverage on all the news networks who are out there trying to act like if you're not excited about basically what Donald Trump does every freaking day when he goes out and talks to anybody. He just does the same thing. He goes to talking points. He says some boring things. He plays Lee Greenwood, who I have to imagine, Lee Greenwood, I know nothing about the man. He's probably a really lovely person, but he's singing a hit that he wrote in 1983 that was a hit in the early 1990s when we went into Persian Gulf 1, and it was used to drum up patriotism, which was also kind of BS back then, for what they were excited about. He's singing the shittiest song, and I kind of hope for his sake that he passes on so he doesn't have to keep doing this, that he doesn't have to keep being Donald Trump's, lapdog or whatever it is. And here's a picture of Donald Trump doing his shitty dance with his weird face, and I don't know any other way to say it. I look at it, and I'm embarrassed for the man. I'm embarrassed for Lee Greenwood in the same way. It's beneath this country. And all we're doing is doing this mistaking of nostalgia for a time when people could be excited about America. And there was a time, and by the way, Donald Trump ran on that time. That's what Make America Great Again. It's a hearkening back to a previous time. If you're going to sell nostalgia, then you have to bring things back that people recognize and do it in a nostalgic way. Lee Greenwood is captured by Donald Trump's crappy music choices, his awful dancing, his just old man embarrassing sort of presentation. And I'm going to play it for you too. He doesn't have it either anymore, by the way. At least he had it at some point. He used to sing a song. It used to make people have goosebumps. You'd watch it and the fireworks would go on and you'd be like, this country's awesome. There's a bunch of awesome things about it. I actually saw sort of the social media op of trying to bring this back by having a bunch of foreigners here for the FIFA World Cup. And they're like, America is incredible. And like, what are they celebrating? Shitty food at Waffle House and getting, Chick-fil-A and going to Texas Roadhouse and getting free bread. It's like, no, like the rest of the world just sucks compared to us. But like this sucks compared to America. And there's nothing wrong with me noticing that because I lived when America was better. The food tasted better. The ingredients were not the things that are making people fat and sick and gross. We didn't have poison in like our food supply the way it is today. And what did we get from Trump? We got let's go ahead and give immunity to the glyphosate producers. Anyway, I'm going to keep crapping on Lee Greenwood, despite you guys saying otherwise, because he sounds terrible and he looks ancient. And he's pointing out that we have a geriatric, frail, terrible set of decision makers who are too old to be in charge of this place anymore. This is the boomer slop. Here it is.
The man who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Now they're going to show the flyover. It's got to get old being in that routine where your job is to just go out and hype a guy. And it's really embarrassing to me. I don't know any other way to say it. I watch it and it's just like, he's never looked older. Yeah, we're all older every single day, but it's just weak. It's a weak performance. This is not bring people together, America. This is not like a celebration of America's birthday. It's embarrassing. There's no other way around it. It's almost as embarrassing as listening to this man. I don't think most boomers are like this. This guy claims to be 66 years old. But this is the boomer slop mentality. And these are the people who are the marketing, this marketing is geared towards. And obviously, if you're over the age of whatever, 62 or 63 or whatever it is, this is not you if you listen here, because I don't know how you can handle it. This guy says he wants to see Barron Trump as not president, but king. It's the exact opposite of what America is.
My dream is, I hope, I'm 66 now. I hope at the end of my life, if I live a long life like my father did, he made it to 93, I hope as I'm on my way out, the last great thing I witnessed in this country is President Barron Trump. No, forget it, King Barron Trump. King Barron Trump.
Like, what are we even talking about? Stephen Miller actually brought it up. I played it to you yesterday. This problem of mistaking nostalgia for patriotism. It's fatal right now for this movement. And what you're going to get is people crying about Tucker Carlson saying he's not going to vote for the GOP. And Tucker Carlson is so far back in the crowd. There are people that lead the crowd that are out there first. I don't want to say that I'm doing that, but I was one of the first people recognizing, like, oh, shoot, we voted for this and it was a lie. And it was a lie because they immediately turned on us. I knew that from the FBI end. I was hopeful for some of the other stuff. And then we've seen betrayal after betrayal when it comes to the promises that were being made, and they continue on. And you can't sell me, I said we were going to do something and that is actually the success. It doesn't fly with me, and it shouldn't fly with you. This was Stephen Miller sort of acknowledging that, but he doesn't say what the solution is. The solution is just follow through.
Look, we used to have a country, you could pick what time period, maybe say the 1980s with Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. We used to have a country where you had a center-left Democrat Party, really a center, I would say a center to center-left with many members who were actually center-right. These were called Reagan Democrats or Blue Dog Democrats. So that was the spectrum the Democrat Party lived in, from center-left to center-right. Then you had a Republican Party, right, a conservative party. And over time, the Democrat Party has abandoned all of that, and they have instead adopted this radical, revolutionary, and in many cases violent ideology that wants to tear America down and destroy everything that we know and love from top to bottom, right? Living in a state of total anarchy, without police, without law enforcement, where criminals can rape and maim and murder with impunity, where your kids are taught from the age of 2 to hate America, to hate their God, to hate their parents, to hate their family, to even hate their own gender. That's their agenda. And no, you cannot have a middle ground with that. Ultimately, what President Trump is doing and what he is leading is an America First movement that says we need Democrats to come vote for us, to leave that insanity, because ultimately that's just a death knell for America.
So he's correct that you can't find middle ground with people that want you dead and don't share your values and don't believe in America in any meaningful way and don't have the same sort of values or the understanding of the country. He's right. And then what they do is they make peace with that exact evil thing, and they have that middle ground, and that's what the Republican Party is. And whether Donald Trump wants to be the guy that represents the middle ground or not is completely irrelevant, because there's 535 other people that get a say in how this country goes. The president is supposed to be the secondary power to the legislative power, and the legislative power is a swamp. It's a morass. It doesn't move. And we got a chance to see what that looked like in real time with this sort of housing bill. And again, the president is supposed to be a check and a balance against this sort of awful policy that could come down when the will of the people is not being served by the entire legislative body, both the House and the Senate. So he did his job in the last 24 hours by not signing on something. And people are melting down from the political left and the so-called political right, and none of them are conservative. And so Donald Trump did something that was actually sort of conservative for once. He's like, you're pushing a bill that is bigger government. I don't know why he did it. Maybe he just wanted something else in exchange and he would have signed it anyway. But he didn't. He didn't sign the housing bill. So thank freaking God. Honestly. Because all it did was give a bunch more power to the federal government, which is the opposite of conservatism, which you heard Stephen Miller out there hearkening back to. What was he saying? There was a time in this country, call it when it was under Reagan, whatever. Fine. We have this nostalgia for a time when America had values. And by the way, the difference between the left and the right at that point in time was not nearly as cavernous as it is today. Because at least at that time, everybody said, America's the best country. We want to make America the best country. We disagree about how to make America the best country. And now you have people that are saying, America's just fine as it is. We just need to do more of this. We just need more cowbell. Rah, rah, Trump, flyovers, Lee Greenwood, Alexis Wilkins singing the national anthem. Kash Patel's a hero. Government gangster books. Don't worry about government gangsters. Nobody who's a government gangster is in prison. You got that side. And then the other side is like, America's so bad, dirty, rotten, evil, no good, that we need to throw out the entirety of it and we need to destroy it and build it up as a communist utopia or something. And there are people in the Democrat establishment that are going like, uh-oh, we've been selling radical crazy for a long time and people bought it and now people are theoretically voting for it, or there's enough energy to be able to install it, or maybe that's what the party's goal is all along. I don't know. Like, I tend to have this belief that elections, particularly primary elections, just favor what the party thinks the consensus is. Here's Brandon Gill. Brandon Gill's a young man. He is the son-in-law of Dinesh D'Souza. And Dinesh D'Souza is a pretty cynical actor. He's a man that's happy to be wealthy. He's happy to make money. He's happy to not stand on principle, but to stand on where the audience is. And I don't know that that's what Tucker Carlson is doing, but the movement of Tucker Carlson, quote unquote, away from the GOP, that's recognizing that a lot of people rationally thinking, look and go, that's not what I voted for. You're lying to me. I don't like being disappointed. Don't make me have to choose between the lesser of two evils when one of the evils actually presented itself as not being evil. If you came out and said, like, look, we don't get along and we don't like each other, but I'm not going to kill you, and the other person's like, yeah, I'm totally going to kill you, you go, okay, I'm going to go for the guy that's not going to kill me. If one person says, I'm going to give you all the things that you want, I'm going to tell you everything that you agree with because we are the same, and then that person has an opportunity to act on it, and they're like, just kidding. I was actually a freaking liar, and all I cared about was enriching myself. That betrayal is actually deeper than the person who told you they were going to kill you right up front. I'm actually kind of okay with the person that says they want to fight me, says they want to do damage to me, and wants to do it to my face, than the person who claims that they're going to help me and then stabs me in the back and steals from me on the other end. And this is going to be the betrayal that you're going to see. And this is why people are going to just not vote. Libertarians, legitimate conservatives that are frustrated, people who are done with the lesser of two evils, people that are tired of being lied to and just say, hey, if you say something and you don't do the thing, like, why would I ever listen to you again? It's going to be the George W. Bush, you fool me once, you can't fool me twice because you're not going to fool me again. Well, there are songs about won't get fooled again. That's a thing. I'm going to play this little clip from Brandon Gill, and I want to show you the disingenuous framing of Fox News, which again falls into that Lee Greenwood, Donald Trump, boomer slop. We should make King Baron von Trump, the child of the president right now, who's not living up to what he said. Listen to this crazy thing. I'm going to pause it in the middle. I'm going to frame something, and then you guys will see what I'm saying.
Congressman, that new Fox News poll reveals that 40% of Democrats believe America's best days are ahead, only 40%, compared to 72% of Republicans. Man, optimism seems to be on in the GOP. Why is that?
All right, we're going to pause it real quick, and I'm going to go back here to the graphic. Okay, that's Laura Ingraham, who has essentially sold her soul. She's going to say whatever Fox tells her, in the same way that we've heard Megyn Kelly say that if you work at Fox News, you know what your job is, you know what you're supposed to say. You're a cheerleader, you got to put on the pom-poms, you got to put on the tutu, and you go out there and shake your butt. So she's shaking her butt. This is the Fox News poll. Believe America's best days are ahead of them. In 2023, when Joe Biden, the human Roomba, was in charge, 30% of Republicans believe that, which is very low. And 60% of Democrats did. Okay? So when their guy is in charge, allegedly, if you believe that sort of thing, when the human Roomba is duttering around in the White House, when the oatmeal for brains guy is out there falling over on his bicycle, which is standing still and is the oldest person that's ever been in the office and all that, 60% of Democrats said the America's best days are in front of them because they felt optimistic and hopeful because our guy is in charge. And 30% of Republicans did. Just a third. Fast forward, now we go. That was 2 years in, year and a half in to Joe Biden being in. Now we have the same poll, and it's done while their guy is in charge, Republicans' guy is in charge, and we've got 72% of Americans think that the golden age is in front of them. It's amazing. Plus or minus 5%, by the way. That's a pretty big variation in the plus or minus. Most of these polls that are good are like between 1.5 and 3. Anyway. 5% swing, as many as 77% of Americans who are Republicans think the best days are in front of them, and only 40%, as low as 35%. So essentially, you've just had a flip-flop. And what I see there is we are now in a moment where when your guy has the reins, you're cheering, rah, rah, America's best days are in front of us. Everything is great. I'm optimistic. And when the opposite happens, you're like, oh no, it's terrible. The worst thing that's ever happened. And then you have the guys like me who are like, you're all effing liars. And I'm not going to believe you because this data is a flip. It's a mirror image of itself. And then you're going to get young, handsome, wealthy guys like Brandon Gill, who was one of the bit actors on Police State. So I got to meet him. I got to spend some time with him. And he's a nice guy. His wife's a nice lady. I have nothing against them personally. But he's playing a role. And the role is, I'm going to champion America because our people are in charge. And then as soon as the other people are in charge, he's going to tell you that it's their fault. It's the other guy's fault. And no one ever takes the blame. Here we go. Ready? Brandon Gill doing the apology tour for poor behavior.
Seems to be on in the GOP. Why is that?
Well, I think that Republicans, first of all, they love this country. They love its people. They love its culture and its heritage and want to see that preserved. I mean, we're conservatives. We want to conserve the America that we grew up in. And liberals, I think, fundamentally disagree with the founding principles. They fundamentally, I think on a core level, don't like the American people. They want to replace the American people oftentimes with foreigners. And that carries through. You know, if you don't love this country, how can you possibly be entrusted to govern this country for its own good?
He's 32 years old. He's smart. He's attractive. He's got money. He comes from a family that has money. His father-in-law has money, as is influential in the Trump circuit. You're selling me that people on the political left hate America, and I'm certain that some of them do, and some of them are clearly destructionist idiots. They have the worst ideas, and we're going to cover some of them, and we did yesterday as well. The sort of socialist, democratic socialists of America, just dim bulbs saying stupid things. But to act like my neighbor is my enemy if we don't agree on politics, when both of the politics give me the same result, that's offensive to a thinking person. And don't have me take a 32-year-old young man who's got one child and he's been married for a couple of years and he basically just got into Congress and his entire work history is he started a little media thing. He did a little bit of hedge fund work or something like that. Like, he's young. He's in that audacious period when you've got enough boldness and enough intelligence to go out there and do things. But don't make proclamations about the America we grew up in. By the time he would, like, he's 32, I'm 44. So he's 12 years younger than me. That means he was born in the early 90s. He doesn't even remember things about America being the America that we think. He was a toddler. He was a toddler when America was great. And I think that a lot of people will argue that sometime maybe in the 70s, although there were some problems in the 70s, but really that sort of like 80s and early 90s period. And I was young, but I remember it being an idyllic childhood. He doesn't even have that memory. So that's a strange thing to say. And again, all you're doing is showing me that the polls flip-flopped. Very hard for me to buy into any of that as being real. If you're watching on Rumble, give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the channels. You may hear an ad on the audio platforms now. I'm giving you the warning. That comes from Spotify and KyleSerafinShow.com. That's how you find us on Spotify. That's probably the best way to find it in the after effect if you're watching. Guys, I also have to make an apology to you because I did not realize this. I went back and I authorized advertisements on the podcast for yesterday on YouTube. And I had no idea that they were punching in an ad like every 2 to 3 minutes. Somebody made a comment one time. They're like, oh my God, your show is unwatchable. It has ads every 3 minutes. I was like, there's no way they do that. Holy shit. I have never seen the number of, I was deleting. I was like, click, 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 click. I clicked 20 times to delete and I still had them every half hour on the show. I must have deleted 50 or 60 ads from yesterday's show to be able to allow them in. So I'm going to do my best going forward that when we monetize on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube and you've been frustrated, watching it live is the only way to watch it because I don't insert any ads other than that. I'm so sorry that that's the case for the people that watch it in the review. I'm honestly, like, I'm embarrassed how many ads they stick in there. I can't believe that YouTube has that business model. So I'm going to go and try to figure out how to either turn that thing down or I'm going to delete the hell out of a bunch of their ads. And we'll try to get them like every 25 minutes or 30 minutes. Yeah, awful, just freaking awful. Okay, so we got that, and again, we got a campaign rally last night. We didn't get a kickoff to America's birthday, and stating that we were going to have Milli Vanilli, and the backup to Milli Vanilli was Alexis Wilkins. At least people have heard of Milli Vanilli. The second thing we've got is this sloppy sort of, I'm going to announce something and that's victory. Again, I've told you this is the Trump MO. I'm going to give you another example of it. You want to know how boomery this administration is. And I say that as a generational generalization. Yeah, generational generalization. He acts old. The things that he celebrates are old. There are many people who are over the age of 60 something, 63, 65, whatever. You're in your 70s and you don't act old. I know this more than almost anybody that you'll ever meet who's in their 40s because I worked in emergency medicine. I met people who were in their 50s and I was like, holy shit, this person's about to die. This person is so old, they are going to die today. And they were in their 50s. And I met people who were in their 70s who were with it. And I was like, hey, I want to hang out. Like maybe we could go kick it later. Age is not just a number. It is sort of the way that you live. It's the way that you think. It's the way that you educate yourself. It's the way that you adapt to technologies and things that are going on around you. Donald Trump has not done that. Donald Trump is doing the cha-cha-cha thing because his range of mobility is low and his belly fat is high. And he's super energetic for a guy that's his age, but he's old. And the things he thinks are old. He wanted to have the biggest celebration. And he was like, who can bring in a crowd bigger than Elvis? And everybody who's my age, who's like my parents' age, barely remember. Like, did Elvis have big crowds? Does anyone remember what those crowds were? No, people remember the crowds from the Beatles, but not Elvis. And they don't remember, they remember what Michael Jackson brought in. Nobody knows what kind of crowds Elvis was bringing in. So for that to be your reference, and it's the same in this clip right here, he's going to announce something that will never happen. I'll just go right on record. If it happens, I will freaking eat my shorts. Small shorts. I'll find some small shorts. I'll cut them up and I'll eat them. If we get national concealed carry under the Trump administration, I will eat an article of clothing. That's how much I know it's not going to happen. And the reason I know it's not going to happen is because he announced it. And so that is dead. And he's announcing it and he's saying, who's backing it? The National Rifle Association, the NRA. Do you know who cares about the NRA in the gun world? Nobody serious. Nobody. It's boomer slop bullshit. It's the worst people. They have betrayed gun owners at every turn. They're about money. They were about influence. They're about corruption. They're about kleptocracy, plutocracy, like whatever evil thing that the left would call them. They were that. They were awful. I showed up to the NRA range on a regular basis. I used to work down the street from their headquarters. Man, they suck. The NRA is awful. They folded on bump stocks. We had Mike Cargill on here not long ago talking about how no money came his way, not from the Firearms Policy Coalition, not from Gun Owners of America, not from the National Federation for Gun Rights, whatever the hell they're called. There's like a smaller one. The NRA is not even in the conversation about gun rights at this point. They'd be fine with outlawing suppressors. They don't think that anybody should have a right to own a machine gun. They don't think that bump stocks are okay. They're probably against FRTs. They're garbage. They're absolute dog shit when it comes to talking about gun rights. And that's who Donald Trump is championing. Again, all you're telling me is you are so far outside of the range of references for the people that you need to win over that you're hopelessly out of touch. And you're cheering on national concealed carry. It's not happening. It's not happening. I know because you mentioned it. In the same way I know that we're not leaving the Hoover building. By the way, the reason the FBI doesn't leave the Hoover building is because they were going to go to the Reagan building, but the Reagan building is made out of glass and it doesn't meet any of the safety standoffs that are required post Oklahoma City bombing. And so they could have never moved into that building. The ability to move in there would cost over $1 billion in retrofitting for the FBI to take the headquarters from Hoover over to that building. It wouldn't even withstand like a small blast. They did the studies on it. I had people from the Bureau already telling me this months ago. So they're not moving out of the Hoover building. All right, here's a big nugget, I guess.
The NRA, everybody, they really have been. They've been with me right from the beginning.
That's the problem.
And Bill asked me, would I support the national right to carry legislation? How do you feel about national right to carry? That's my free poll. You know what that is? That's a free poll. I don't have to pay $300,000 to somebody that doesn't even do polling, to give you phony numbers. See, those are real numbers. National right to carry. Yeah, we're working on it.
All right. Let's do some news stories that are out there. There's things that are happening that are in addition to just how frustrating it is. Again, I don't want to wake up and be bummed out. I was kind of hoping that we were going to have a couple years, like maybe the first 2 years, where we could cheer on, like, hey, we're crushing it. The things we were promised are getting done. You could have satisfied me with just the top 2 things on the list, even if it was crazy expensive in this country. Even if you ran interest rates up to 14, 15, 18, 17%, whatever it was, my parents bought their first house. Super expensive. And you were tightening down the money supply. I know inflation doesn't die overnight. I'm not crazy. If you were like, look, in order to do something, it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. We have to tighten the money supply. Normal people who are grown-ups, who are older than Brandon Gill, would go, yeah, I got it. I recall my parents had to go through this as well. After some bad years in the 70s, we had some rough years in the early 80s that were expensive, but it worked towards a better option. It pulled us back from the brink. We could do that. That'd be fine. Here's the housing bill. This apparently was a big blow up. This is fun. I love it. Absolutely love it when both sides of the news media are frustrated with somebody for doing something. If you want to know you're doing the right thing, if Donald Trump wants a barometer of success, if Fox is pissed off at you and MSNBC is pissed off at you, then you're winning. MS Now. That's where the win is. The win is the squishy right is pissed and the loony left is pissed. That means that you are doing the thing that your base is. And by the way, the MAGA base, they're not my enemy, although some of them are completely retarded. The MAGA base is closer to me, if they're being honest, politically, as long as they pull their head out of the cult where they have to cheer on a guy that's not doing what they asked for. As long as they are paying attention, they are closer to me politically than they would be comfortable admitting. And they are closer to Tucker Carlson than they'd be comfortable admitting. And they're closer to all of this. So here's the story. Donald Trump has a testy meeting with GOP senators. This is his party, in theory, that he theoretically runs, telling Cassidy at one point to sit down. I don't know why that was the highlight in the headline. His meeting with Republican senators on Wednesdays turned testy, and at one point he sternly told Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy to sit down after questions arose about the War Powers Resolution. That's the one big talking point, and the other is this housing bill. He raised his voice. I lost my temper. That's not appropriate. That's the Irish in me, but I matched his tone and his volume. Dude, shut up. Nobody cares. How about people actually doing the things? I make no apologies for standing up to the president. Remember, if you're working on behalf of and you're winning, then you get to say that we're fighting for you. And if you're losing and you're getting beaten up, then you just say, I'm the only one who's fighting against it. And we're always fighting something. We're fighting for and we're fighting against, but we're never actually just accomplishing. Remember, the announcement of what we want to do, that is the victory. That's the Trump move. That's what the Republican Party is totally happy to do. So there you have it. It says on Wednesday night, the Senate rejected a similar measure, which was going to be talking about this War Powers Resolution. 4 Republicans voted in favor of the concurrent resolution, which is symbolic and doesn't carry the force of law. This might be the most common statement that we could say about anything that these assholes do. Excuse my language. It is truly frustrating to know that we put 100 people in the Senate that don't actually represent the states, even though they're meant to, and we put 435 people in the House, and what do? They do things that are symbolic and do not represent the force of law. Period. The end. That's what they're about. It's shameful. It's shameful, and I'm aggressively disgusted by it every single day. So let's see. And then I'm going to give you kind of like what it looks like when they give you the false dichotomy. The false dichotomy equals either you're with us or you're against us, essentially. Let's do the housing bill. This is a woman getting asked about the housing bill that Donald Trump didn't sign. This is how I know that it's a thing that I'm behind. This woman's a Democrat. I don't know what her name is. She's being interviewed, I think, by Midas Touch. We'll get kind of a taste on this. I'm going to run a couple of different clips of people. Both sides of the aisle are upset about this. When Liz Warren is pissed off that you didn't sign the bill, I'm happy. Period. The end. There's almost no exception to that.
Congressman, what do you think of Donald Trump refusing to sign the housing bill and not showing up to the ceremony today in the House of Representatives?
You know, I didn't think that I could get shocked by anything that Donald Trump does, but he was literally handed a bipartisan housing bill that would increase supply, that would lower costs on a silver platter. It would have been such an easy win for him during a time when he's been so unpopular between his cover-up of the Epstein files and the illegal war that he screwed up. He could have said, you know, I did this big housing bill. And because he's more committed to rigging the election this fall, he chose to completely blow it all up.
That person's in Congress. That person has one of the 535 voices that matter, in theory. and everything she says is basically a question. And it kind of comes out like she's from Southern California from the 1970s. And I don't know why we gotta talk like this whenever we are talking about something. And there is no way that I could have been more upset about Donald Trump than whatever. Okay, here's the old lady Northeast version of this. I've heard this a million times. This is the way this voice sounds. I don't know what happens when you move to the Northeast, but you end up sounding like this if you're over the age of 60. So here is the discussion of the War Powers Act. Same story. Very frustrated. This is Liz Warren. She's going to talk on both topics.
What do you make of his shouting match with Senator Bill Cassidy today, which was over the Iran War Powers vote yesterday that Cassidy funny. Voted for and several other Republicans? It doesn't actually make Trump stop the war, but it's a rebuke of the war.
Look at her leaning in.
Donald Trump is completely out of control.
Yeah, that's what I would say. He's completely out of control. He's an old man who does crappy dancing and he sells nostalgia. That's completely out of control. She says it while completely in control. How silly is this?
That's pretty obvious. The part
that's called citing facts, not in evidence, for whatever that's worth.
That I still can't wrap my head around is why it is that so many Republicans, both in the Senate and the House, can only do one thing around Donald Trump, and that is bow down. Now, Senator Cassidy evidently didn't today at lunch, but how many others did? Because the Republicans in the House, the Republicans in the Senate, they're staying tied to a Donald Trump who says affordability is a hoax made up by the Democrats and says about the high inflation and high interest rates, he loves the inflation. Donald Trump is making it clear that Republicans are not committed to lowering costs for families. Democrats are. I think I've just seen the big issue open up. Thank you, Donald Trump. Here we go for the midterms.
As though the midterms were going to work out well. They're not. Clearly not. We're going to get into the housing bill piece. Very, very upsetting about what happened on the housing bill. Allow this breathless kind of coverage. This is what real news looks like. I should try to work on this.
We turn now to the closed-door meeting erupting into chaos. President Trump meeting with Republicans on Capitol Hill, suddenly erupting into a shouting match. The president had suddenly refused to sign a bill supported by Republicans and Democrats that would have helped Americans with housing and affordability. Rachel Scott at the Capitol tonight.
Tonight, chaos in the Capitol, a closed-door meeting between President Trump and Senate Republicans descending into a shouting match. It came after President Trump abruptly canceled plans to sign a major housing bill.
Have you guys ever noticed they all sound the same? Marcus, I can't believe they were doing this thing. They're like a female version of Harry Carey. Balls, cows, balls, and strikes are going to just call it out as it comes down here. Can you believe there's chaos at the Capitol? I don't know where they teach this shit, but it's awful. It's really awful. And I think when people hear that, the first thing you should hear is when someone talks to you like this is going to be the way that they normally talk. Is this it? It's actually a joke, and you probably shouldn't take them seriously. This is how I feel about it. Let's keep covering this. A very important chaos at the Capitol shouting match.
A rare moment of cooperation between Republicans and Democrats on a key issue of affordability.
Key issue of affordability. Does anyone ever say the word when you're like, hey, I'm really worried about American affordability?
We just passed something that we're all proud of. 85 votes in the Senate, 385 votes in the House
we talked about
make
that.
Housing more available to Americans.
Just remember what it says in the Constitution. Housing should be more available, and the federal government should help you do that, right? Let me know what article and section that is.
All need that. In red states and blue states, Trump blew it up.
The stage was set for the bill signing when President Trump fired off a post, dismissing the legislation as a matter of minor importance.
If you found out that the moon was made of cheese, would you eat it? Would you eat the cheese? I know I would. It'd be delicious.
Saying he would not sign it until the Senate passed his own top priority, tough new voting restrictions. Republicans blindsided.
What did you think of that?
I was disappointed because I thought that this had become a priority.
Soon after the president arriving to meet Senate Republicans.
Are you going to sign the housing bill, sir?
Behind closed doors, sources tell us President Trump unloaded on another topic, Iran, lashing out at several Republicans who had voted to limit his war powers. One of them, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, firing right back.
He asked, why would anybody vote for the War Powers Act? As he continued, I said, is that a rhetorical question? Or would you like to really know? He said, I'd like to know. I stood and said, you have not told the American people what's going on.
Cassidy acknowledges he lost his temper.
He lost his temper. Excuse me, sir, but would you say that you lost your temper?
Voices were raised. Put it that way.
Any regrets on anything you said?
She doesn't talk like that normally.
I'm not going to be bullied when I'm trying to get answers for the American people. Right now, there's just like, it seems that we're being told different things by different people.
Publicly, the president brushing it off.
Any regrets on what you said? This is how I normally talk. But now I'm going to tell you how it sounds when I'm really telling this thing. If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? I know I would. I'd cover myself with mustard and relish. I'd be so delicious. It's like cartoon Harry Carey. By the way, I saw a Harry Carey talking about food products, Mexican food products. He was doing this ad the other day. It was really funny from the 70s. He's like, do you like so-and-so products? Add these food products to your meal and impress your guests. I was like, Harry Carey, he was probably hammered when he was doing it. It sounds like you're a drunken buffoon, and they do this all the time. It makes me sick. Folks, if you're watching on Rumble and that didn't make you laugh, there's something wrong with you. You should at least laugh about how stupid all of this thing is. It's all fake and gay, and we have to deal with it. Give us a like on Rumble and YouTube, and bump us up on the leaderboards or whatever else. You may hear an ad on Spotify and the other audio platforms at this point right now. So I leave the space for it. Let's see, what else we got here? I wanted to get into the housing bill bit. So I didn't dig into it because I just knew that I hated all of it. Daniel Horowitz, who's one of the few people over at The Blaze that I think is not terrible. There's a lot of stuff at The Blaze that is just absolutely sort of, what would we even call that? It's just conservative incorporated garbage. He's a host of Conservative Review, it's a podcast. He's a senior editor at The Blaze. Strongly criticized the bipartisan 21st Century Road to Housing Act. I saw him say that he was going to go do a big breakdown. I encourage you guys, if you guys want to go see it, follow him. It's at RM Conservative, and you can go look at it. Go take a look at his podcast where he broke it down. This is kind of a quick summary of it. He called it a stupid housing bill. He said Liz Warren's housing bill from hell. Again, I can tell what I'm going to hate and what bills I don't want based on who's out there telling you it's great. And if Liz Warren says it's great and a bunch of swampy people that are out there and it's bipartisan and you got 85 votes out of the Senate, the only thing you get 85 votes out of the Senate are things that I hate. You know, like FISA. By the way, we published something the other day. The FBI, not the FBI Agents Association. The Society for Ex-FBI Agents has asked all of their members to reach out to their senators and to their representatives in the House and ask them to pass FISA 702. Just so you know. So when, I know evil people and people that I will always disagree with on principle, when those people are out there, the people that I'm not making peace with, right? The people that say they want to kill me to my face, when those people are pushing something, I know it's bad. So here's kind of the highlights of what came out of it. This was 2 days ago on his podcast. If you guys want to go look, I'll break down. Expands federal control and HUD programs. The bill, they say allegedly, I think that's funny, expands federal housing programs, gives Washington, D.C. unprecedented leverage over local communities, and uses federal grant money as a carrot and stick to pressure locals, including Republicans, politicians, and developers. You know what's not conservative? More big government. So that should be against what everybody's about. Promotes high-density development and Section 8 in red and conservative areas. He argued that it incentivizes local zoning to change and destroy single-family zoning. If you guys like living in places where you're in a single-family home and the next door could be like a duplex or an apartment building, then carry on. But those things end up bringing in very different income levels. And the one thing that I can generally say about neighborhoods is that people who live in the same neighborhoods probably have more in common than not when there's normal zoning. But if you're going to have a neighborhood where I live in a single family house and I have a certain amount of money that it takes to buy that, and I had to buy it in a certain time. Now, maybe I'm a lot older and I bought it when it was cheaper, but still at the end of the day, you're going to be someone who values what the neighborhood looks like, and that turnover happens. But if you bring in mixed unit housing, which is a zoning problem, this is why places like Houston and New Orleans are kind of insane. You'll go and it'll be like crack house, so Victorian mansion, they're right next to each other. There's a lot of the Gulf Coast that's like that. When you have those things where they're so mixed, you end up with poverty and wealth side by side, and the blatant iniquity between the two of them really does cause societal stress. It causes problems, and then you end up finding out I have nothing in common with my neighbors. Why would I know the people who live next door when they're living 8 to a room and I'm living in a regular house? Anyway, all of you people that are living out in the country, you already know that you're living ahead of the curve here. But for the people that live in high density developments, or if you live in neighborhoods like suburban areas, overdeveloping suburbs and exurbs and rural areas with high density, multifamily, Section 8 housing, plus there was movements towards a smart city and transforming red America, he claimed the ultimate goal was to force these changes via federal incentives. Of course it is. And so when you hear people telling you that, like, well, we're optimistic for America, but the people that are out there telling you they're optimistic right now, the people in power are pushing this crap where they want to put more federal pressure on housing, which it has no business getting involved in. This is a local issue. It should be between you and your money and whatever you can afford to buy into. It risks another housing bubble with bad policy. The legislation incentivizes another bubble, expands HUD. Everything that said I expand federal government equals things that I despise. That sets federal zoning standards that benefit land developers and Section 8. Section 8 is, having lived next to Section 8, when we were living down near downtown Austin, my wife and I were living like walking distance from Section 8 housing and what the equivalent of Texas housing projects are. And it was like all the crime came from those neighborhoods. If someone stole your bike, you knew where it was. If someone came and spray painted in your garage, as it did happen in our garage, Fusk, F-U-S-K, because they couldn't spell because they were illiterate. Fusk White Popole, P-E-P-O-L-E. And yes, I did come down and find that next to my, like in 8-foot tall letters, spray painted in our garage when I was a little bit younger, before I went to the FBI. Fusk White Popole, that comes from Section 8 housing, in my experience. Take your experience for what it's worth. There's only a small number of Republicans. He noted 8 in one of the motion. 32 voted no on it. Were opposed to both the Senate and House. The Democrats gave near unanimous support with a couple of crossovers. This should always be your problem. He called this the, he said it was the GOP trifecta, would be the largest bill passed under it. Anyway, the podcast, if you guys want to go listen to a long form version of this, warning the bipartisan housing bill forcing Section 8 into red America. Everything about that housing bill sounds atrocious, mostly because it's trying to solve a local problem, which is literally the most local thing. Where do I live? How do I live there? What choices can I make to spend my money to be able to put a roof over my head? There is zero the federal government should have to do with that, in my opinion. Which, by the way, is the conservative opinion, which, by the way, is what people should be appealing to if you want to get people who are libertarian-minded, if you want the people who are the crossover voters, if you're looking to find out, hey, how can we not piss off the Tucker Carlsons of the world? Can we get the MTGs, who I don't know what they represent? Like, they're uber wealthy people. They're not like me, and they're not probably like you. But if you want to get the people that listen to them, who are more like us, you're not going to do it that way. Or I guess you could just crap on them. Would you like to crap on them? Let's put a little ghoulish stuff on here. This is something also from The Blaze. This is a much longer clip that I'm not going to play. This is a clip from the Charlie Kirk show. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, Seraphin, isn't Charlie Kirk dead? Didn't someone assassinate him? Yeah, that happened. But that was like not even a year ago. So we're just going to keep picking over his corpse. Here are the two men that pick over the corpse of Charlie Kirk and another man that is joining from The Blaze. I'm going to describe these men as I am known to do, and it's not charitable and it's not nice. One of these men, who's the ghoul eating the corpse of Charlie Kirk, looks like a homosexual, like a nice gay man. Hello, nice gay sir, is what I would say to him if I met him. And I don't know what his name is, and I don't care. The second man looks like a transgender person in the middle of a transition who is not very convincing, balding due to a shaved head, kind of a strange beard that comes from testosterone that's overcompensating, and yet still a feminine figure. And then the third is coming from The Blaze, and it's a guy named John Doyle who's going to sit there and tell us that we're all garbage and it's our fault. And John Doyle looks like a teenager who has AIDS that has some sort of caveman problem. He has a beard, but the beard doesn't look like what a beard is supposed to. It looks like someone who has AIDS and is dying, and like the hair keeps falling out. So that's not a nice way to describe anybody, and I'm aware of that. I'm just telling you, they presented themselves in a visual medium, and for those of you that are listening, you're like, who are these faces? I will tell you, it's going to be handsome gay man, failed transgender, and AIDS patient, and I'm going to just name them as their voices come on so you can recognize them. That might be the meanest thing that I've ever said. I think I would say it to their faces. I don't like these guys at all.
John Doyle, host of the John Doyle Show over at Blaze
Handsome gay
TV.
man speaking.
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. You guys have
AIDS
some
patient.
excellent microphone taste over there in studio.
Well, you know, we have Charlie to thank for that. We tried out a bunch of microphones. It doesn't sound right. It's too tinny. It's too light.
They're talking about the Electro Voice RE20. I've got one of those sitting over here too. I bought one when I got a deal on it. They're nice microphones, but at the same time, it's the one that Rush used. It's the one that Bongino uses. It's the one that has been used in radio stations since the 1960s. So nice taste in microphones you guys got there. Anyway, and we haven't heard from the failed transgender yet.
Gave our production team quite the runaround for years.
It's so funny you mentioned
Here's
that just because I was watching one of your clips last night and I did think, that's the same microphone we have.
Exactly.
And I'm not usually a microphone.
Oh my God. How many microphones are out there that are broadcast quality? It's like, I have the same microphone as Joe Rogan. I wish I would tell him that. He would love it. I'd be like, Joe Rogan, I have the same microphone that you have.
No, but these are good. These are actually the same one Rush used.
Yeah,
that was what
so
Charlie
good.
wanted. Give me the ones Rush uses. So, and actually, you'll appreciate this. When we had Glenn in.
And when he says Charlie, he means the guy that was killed, that they have the name of the show. It's freedom@charliekirk.com and the Charlie Kirk Show and the Charlie Kirk Show on Real America's Voice. This is them picking over the corpse of a dead man.
The studio, he brought the golden EIB microphone, put it on the set. It was cool. It was very cool.
Yeah,
very cool. All right, so John, I wanted to talk to you about something because you've been really outspoken.
Just so you know, that was a 45-second opening about nothing
on a topic that I think. You know, we just had Citizen Kane from Citizen Free Press on. We're talking about turnout. We got this DSA thing going on.
DSA is Democratic Socialists of America. So they're about to lead into criticizing people that are not going to be on our team. This is the get in, losers. Otherwise, you're a communist. Here it comes.
You know, but our right-wing coalition is fraying at the edges, and you've been outspoken about it. And so I'm going to go ahead and play a montage here of people saying they're leaving the Republican Party. They're done with the GOP. SOT 30.
If you guys want to know what a really great way to bring a guest on is, first let them say one sentence about like, oh, nice microphones. Then talk for a minute. Then play a clip. Because that's why you brought them on.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Just listen to what he said, by the way. He's not supporting either party. He doesn't know what he's going to do. That's a reasonable take right now.
But at this point, you know, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States?
Iran's left stronger. We are
Bill
left
Cassidy.
weaker. Our allies are left weaker.
I do not think we should be sending money to the Ayatollah. That money will be used to murder Americans.
I'm afraid we'll look back on this and see a missed opportunity to basically eliminate the threat.
The details that I've seen so far look awful. This will go down as a tremendous foreign policy blunder. I think it's a deep mistake.
Wicker also said the $300 billion reconstruction fund to help Iran recover from the war would make Iran's payoff under President Obama's 2015 deal look like a pittance by comparison.
You get an interesting contrast there because it really, I think it gets at Tucker there is saying he's extremely angry at the GOP.
This is the failed transgender.
Last. And then we actually have this giant parade of Republican senators saying they're very angry that we're getting out of the Iran war, that this deal is, I guess, not putting the war first.
Foreign policy is by far and away the most controversial, issue on the right. So, John,
the best part of all this stuff is like, yeah, okay, so what we heard was people didn't want to go to war in the first place, and then people don't like the ending of the war because it's not pro-Israel enough, and so we've got that. And so literally all the things that the people like me and maybe even Tucker Carlson are saying in a different way, but like more myopically, we're all saying the same problem. Whatever happened to America first, how about you do the winning thing that you were talking about? Can we get the winning? Can we not announce that we won and actually do the winning? You still have to play the game. You can't just come out and say, we're going to dominate. It's going to be amazing. Don't watch the game because it's already over. By the way, we lost, but don't tell us that.
What do you make of what's going on currently in our movement?
I just don't understand. I mean, I understand why like the neocon class would be upset about that decision. I don't understand why somebody like Tucker Carlson would be upset about that decision necessarily. And I don't even think that clip was what he was responding to initially. I think it was just sort of the vague, the GOP is controlled by foreign interests and therefore I'm not going to align myself with that political party because they're.
But like, isn't that a pretty reasonable thing to say, that if the GOP is aligned with a foreign interest and they're doing things for a foreign interest, then you're not into it? Like, can we address the actual claim or no? We can't do that.
They're refusing rather to put America first. But the problem with that is I remember, and I'm sure you guys remember, Tucker Carlson was the guy who, in the height of neocon control over Washington, was going to go on Fox and wear a bow tie and talk about how much he loved the Iraq war and defended the actions of George Bush. And it's only now, after, what did he say, like 35 years, that he's deciding that, the party is too controlled by support for foreign countries. And
I love that people will just like completely ignore the fact that folks have addressed this situation. People like Tucker Carlson have said that their thinking has evolved, that they're ashamed that they did certain things. And you've got this like guy who looks like an AIDS patient calling out something from 35 years ago when he was like not even born. Doesn't remember Tucker Carlson, as far as I could tell, in a bow tie. I do. And he's talking about this like that's an own. It's like people's thinkings evolve. People see things happen, and then there are moments in their lives where they have conversion. This is the whole argument between like, well, Tulsi Gabbard ran as a Democrat, like she was a Democrat. It's like, yeah, I agree. And she probably still has a lot of those sensibilities. She's also seen what happens when the state targets you, and it's freaking terrifying. And it is a conversion moment.
So he can no longer participate in it. And literally in the span that he has been involved in politics, that has never been less accurate than it is now. I mean, Donald Trump is the guy who got on stage in 2015 and said to Jeb Bush's face, the war in Iraq was a big fat mistake. I mean, arguably, if not for immigration and trade policy, it was the repudiation of this exact kind of like neocon era foreign policy that animated his campaign originally. And he's actually stuck to those promises like fantastically well, I think. And so
there's no need for evidence. I'm just going to say fantastically well. And of course, the people that want to agree with me are already going to agree.
I don't understand why now, if not, over the past 20, 30 years, you would want to make a move like that. I can only assume it's because these people just basically want to ensure Democrat victory so they can get more engagement because
this is exactly the thing. If you're not with us, then you're obviously against us. And if you're not rooting for us to do if you're rooting for us to do the thing we said and not just cheering on the shitty version that we did instead, then you actually want the other team to win. It's like, how about those of us that just literally keep saying it over and over and over again? And I've done it and Alex Jones has done it. You do it and you say, I want the 20 core promises that we're going to make America great again. It was a hell of a start. Even with some of them that were completely unrelated to me, like things about Medicare and Medicaid benefits. I'm like, I can do without that crap. I don't actually want entitlements. I don't want any of those things. But you want to go out there and get rid of all the illegal aliens. You want to go out there and you want to reduce inflation. You want to reduce the size of the federal government. You're going to focus in on constitutional liberties. You want to stop weaponized government. That means you have to reduce the size of government. Everything in there indicated a legitimate conservative position when Donald Trump was running. Not that I think he's a conservative, but you can run on those and do things even if you just think this is the best case for us. You go, well, the only way I'm going to win is by doing things that people want me to win. Meanwhile, this is the argument. If you're not with us, you're against us. If you don't like the shitty version of Donald Trump that you actually got versus the guy that was campaigning, then you're in fact hoping the Democrats win. And that is called accelerationalism. And there is a position where that makes sense. In fact, Nick Fuentes kind of argues we should be accelerationalists. We should see everything fail and then it fails quicker. So maybe we can build something out of the ashes. So that's kind of a straw man. And they're going to go ahead and make that the straw man. That's the position they're going to thrust on people who have not even claimed it. And then they're going to go and attack it in a weak way.
It's the famous adage, right? No one wants to read a headline about a plane landing safely. It actually benefits the influencer class when things are going very poorly because they have more to talk about because Americans are terrified that their children are being propagandized and their grandmothers are being mugged. And so they tune into people looking for answers. And so there is a very actually perverse incentive structure, I think.
Let me also just tell you that there's a perverse incentive structure for knob slobbery on the MAGA pro-Trump side, which I see all the time. And John Doyle has leaned into this, and the Blaze has decided to do that. And I don't think that's being run by, Glenn Beck obviously does it too. So there's a whole bunch of people over at Blaze that say, can we gag on the knob of this administration for access and for friendly press and for being able to do the interviews with all the people that are involved in the administration that we want to have come on, and it keeps us big and it keeps us relevant. And by the way, there's, in addition to being a perverse incentive structure for people to go like, everything is bad, let's call out the bad things so we're aware of the bad things. There's also a really gross, perverse incentive structure to say, I'm on the winning team and we're winning. This is the I'm helping thing, like you see from The Simpsons, Ralph or whatever his name is. He's got his finger up his nose like, I'm an FBI. I'm not actually part of the solution. I'm just talking about how we already did the solution or how we know what the solution is. And we said it. We said the solution. We didn't do it. We're not delivering anything. But everybody wants to be on the winning team. So there actually are two little sides to this thing. One of them is calling out the doom and gloom. One is the it bleeds, it leads mentality. And that's real. I hate doing that. I don't want to be in that. but I can't help seeing things that are poor behavior and poor delivery. But the other side of it, that they're completely ignoring, and they're acting like it's not real. There's a ton of money in just sucking MAGA knob, slobbing MAGA knob. And there's no other way for me to convey this idea, because it is pornographic, it is disgusting, and I don't think it should be something that we look at and go, oh, this is normal and okay. It's clearly disingenuous. And I know it's disingenuous because I've talked to people who do it. I've had that conversation with Dinesh D'Souza. I've had that conversation with Daniel Bongino, who said, this is too important. We can't have any division. It's like we can't have things that are our own opinions that differ from this garbage crap you're throwing down my throat. People want to be on the winning team. They want to be told that they already won. And so you're going to get this. He's going to completely ignore that side of it, which I think that's actually incredibly dishonest for two guys that are sitting on a show called The Charlie Kirk Show, for a guy who, generally speaking, he said things that were true and sometimes uncomfortable and sometimes cut against what people thought his position might even be. Because I think that Charlie Kirk, even though he wasn't a friend of mine, I didn't know him at all, and there were things that I didn't like. I thought he made a terrible choice in a wife as far as like what her values look like they were. I thought that a long time ago. I could look at what Charlie Kirk would say, and I would say the things he's saying stand on their own, and they do seem pretty honest. They do seem to cut in a way that I think is intellectually fair. I don't think these guys are doing this.
John, there was a tweet of yours yesterday that you're kind of referring to with what you just said, and it's not even just the neocon aspects of thing. In the same interview there, Tucker also complained that the administration hasn't taken action on, for example, like anti-white sentiment in America, that there's anti-white racism, anti-white bias in the government. And first of all, as you say, are we perfect on this issue? Not yet, and yet you're allowed to talk about it. When I was working with him at Fox in 2017, 2018, Fox would like not let us say anti-white racism on the air. Now politicians talk about it. It's a live issue, and the DOJ has taken action.
The reason that people can talk about stuff like that is because people who are not pussies like these men started talking about it, and they did it in independent media. They didn't do it from the Fox News desk, which tells you what Fox does. Fox follows whatever's acceptable and appropriate. And you have this guy, the bald failed transgender experiment, saying it, right? He's letting you know. He's part of the establishment. He came in out of this space. He came in out of mainstream media. They're actually on Real America's Voice, which is like a desperate, like, pick me, like the ugly girl that is going to be the sluttiest girl kind of thing for the Trump administration. That's actually a really good analogy. I shouldn't make good analogies like that. All right, let me see. They still have let their guest talk for a grand total of about 90 seconds, and we are now 5 minutes into this thing. And I'm playing it because it's kind of funny. I'm going to keep swimming. I like this. I like this thing. I've never seen anyone do that on the microphone where they reach into the camera space for no reason. I'm going to start doing that on a regular basis.
Suing people over this. And I especially want to highlight what you
Wait, suing people over words? I hate that. I really do hate that.
Said in your tweet, where you just say, the people who do like neocon stuff would like nothing better than for a bunch of people to rage quit the GOP. Yes, please pack up and leave. You can be based if you want to, but whatever you want to do, just quit.
The argument continues to be, it's going to be made from now until November. You guys make your own decisions. Please do not go like, well, Seraphin's not voting, so I'm not going to. I'm literally not voting in national elections. I will vote in the state ones if I care. If I care. I will show up to the polls because I think that's something that should be done. But I'm not voting in national elections. I'm not going to vote for Ken Paxton. I'm not going to vote for whoever's running for any of the things outside of the state offices. I don't care. And I don't believe that they're real. And the reason I don't believe they're real is because we don't have a Save America Act. It's not getting done. I told you it's not getting done. They're telling you it's not getting done. Here's Rick Scott telling you it's super hard, but we should do it. But we probably can't do it, but maybe we could do it if we just did it. But we gotta try every day to not do it. Meanwhile, right after this video was posted, they decided to vote for a recess, and they've all decided to take off until July the 13th. So they're gonna take 20 days to not do the job. So they're not really gonna do it. They're just gonna talk about doing it. We're just gonna post these videos.
We've got to pass the Save America Act. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. Right?
What's so hard?
Do we have the votes today? No, we don't. No. But let's vote every day. Let's either vote, are we going to pass the Save America Act? Are we going to Are we going to vote to pass voter ID? You have to be an American citizen to register to vote. We've got to clean up our voter rolls. Whatever we can get done, let's vote on something about securing our elections each and every day.
What? Well, are they going to take a recess? Are they going to take some time off? How about recess appointments? We're going to do that? Oh, it's hard. We got to go do this. He's kind of lurchy, isn't he? I don't like pointing out people's looks all the time, but it's super weird because politics is show business for ugly people. That's what it is. It's people who are not attractive. The most attractive people in politics would probably not be attractive enough to make it in real show business. And yet they pop up there and then they present themselves left and right, and they always want to be seen. And their job is to get as much time as they can in front of a camera. And the craziest thing is because of how weird our environment is right now, we have made politics the new sport. So instead of having like stud athletes that are, physical specimens, we've got these like weird looking people, many of whom are literally going to die in office. Yeah. Here we go. Are we going to get recess appointments? Can we do that? Like when you call the Senate out of session and you want to be able to appoint people that you're trying to get in. The Trump administration still hasn't filled all of their appointment slots. Do you realize that? They haven't done it yet. And they're not going to do it. And they're not going to do it because the party that theoretically is Donald Trump's party isn't behind it. So Donald Trump was given, this is the thing, everyone's like, well, when did he switch? Like, when did we lose Donald? You never had the party. The party aligned with Donald Trump to get elected, to get the power, so that it was the Republicans' turn to be the ones that were on the top. They were the one who had to be the ruling party, even though they hate it. So they got it. And the entire goal is like, how do we not accomplish the things that we didn't want to do? You do it by not letting the guy who said the crazy, wild things, which were good ideas, they're objectively good ideas. Here they are again. Why do I keep this up here? I literally will continue to go back to this I will go back to this until the midterms are over. There are 20 promises. You want to win the midterms? You want to get people to, do you want to make it so that there is no one in America who would believe that Democrats got elected? Do the shit that is on this list. 20 promises. Seal the border. Deport people so aggressively that no one even knows, like their heads are spinning. You have to raise interest rates to cut inflation, but do that. Cut down on federal spending too, at a shocking amount. Just slash and burn the federal government. Oh, we had a thing called Doge. We had a thing that we were doing. We were cutting USID. Did they codify those? Absolutely not. Turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower? You probably don't even have that ability as an American country, as an American government. And yet, you can still have policies that favor business in this country. A lot of that's going to be cutting regulations. So get after that aggressively. Tax cut for workers? How about just tax cuts? You don't need to say for workers. Tax cuts, period. You need less money coming in so that you don't spend our money. And then balance your budget. That'd be fine. Defend the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, fundamental freedoms, freedom of speech. How about not having the FBI director's girlfriend using money from the FBI director's foundation to come after people for saying words you don't like? How about that freedom of speech? That'd be nice. And then maybe don't get us into wars. Maybe don't do weird stuff like start new problems in the Middle East. So many of these things had to do the migrant crime epidemic. Demolish drug cartels. So many of these things had to do with the top two, and they were just pieces of it. Don't tell me that you've rebuilt cities and made Washington, D.C. safe when the safe parts of Washington, D.C. are still good, and there are still places I could take you today that you wouldn't walk through if you're a white person. Period. Anyway, are we going to get any recess appointments? Nah.
Right. But for example, on the Health Committee, you have Senator Collins, Senator Murkowski. They've already raised concerns about RFK Jr. I think when you have Matt Gaetz, there's already some Republicans who have spoken out and said some things. The numbers start to get problematic if that is a problem, and your onus for you is to try to get the president who he wants to be in the cabinet. Do you then punt to a recess and try to recess the Senate for 10 days and get those appointments in?
Well, it's an option, but obviously it takes, you have to have all Republicans vote to recess as well. So the same Republicans that you mentioned that might have a problem voting for somebody under regular order probably also have a problem voting to put the Senate into recess. You have to have concurrence from the House. There's a process. All this is a process. But I don't think any of those things are necessarily off the table. I think we have to have all the options on the table, and these nominees deserve their day in court. They deserve a hearing, a confirmation hearing, an opportunity to be vetted, and the Senate will perform its constitutional role under advice and consent. But we are not going to allow the Democrats to thwart the will of the American people in giving President Trump the people that he wants in those positions to implement his agenda.
When it comes,
you can't seem to get all the nominees in that the administration wants. Are you willing to do a recess and get out so that you can let that happen? Literally every other president has done that to some degree. It's been as low as 30. It's been as high as 250 plus recess appointments. Are you willing to go and get out of the way if you can't get the work done? Well, we got to give everybody their day in court. And by court, I mean they need to have their time in front of the American people. We need to side with the Democrats. That is a smooth talking way of saying you're not going to do the agenda. And you should have known that from right up front. This is why my frustration has been there from the beginning. I know what I voted for. I voted for what many of you and most of you voted for as well. Did I get it? No. Here's a great story in Axios today that sums up the point of what I'm making. It talks about all of the issues that are happening at the same time. And what it also, I think, gives us the last opportunity to talk on is this question of socialism, which is now arising on the political left. It's something they've been working towards for a long time. They've moved over and they're like, oh, like we're electing socialists. It's like, yeah, what did you think the political left thought? You got a bunch of entitled people that don't know how the system works. The system seems to be failing them. Whereas people like me go, yeah, because you broke the system. Return it to its original standing. Please remove all this governmental shit. And their answer is, we just don't have enough governmental shit. We're both making coming from the same place. The hard left and the hard right now both agree this system sucks and doesn't work. And the majority of the MAGA people that are pro-Donald Trump right now, the majority of the people that are the squishy center-left Democrats, they're all like, well, can we keep it going for as long as possible? There's a lot of money to be made in this. And the hard left, the commies, have one thing in common with people like me who are conservatives. We both agree this does not work. And our answer to the solution is the radical opposite. They're like, we need to give totality of control to the government. I have no idea how you come to that solution. You're like, government doesn't work. What it needs is more government. Holy crap. They're the more cowbell people. And then there's those of us who are like, hey, this rhythm section sucks. What if we just went a cappella? Could we just do that? Could we just strip the accompaniment behind? Let's just fire the band and let's just go straight vocals. Maybe like one person down there, doing a chest beat. Can we go a cappella? How about a chorus? That'd be fine. That's the argument that I think is being made between hard left and hard right. And again, the squishy middle, they're the enemy. And they're also the majority right now, which is why they're going to stay in. Don't consider the position that I'm holding or that maybe you hold as well to be a majority position. Not even a little bit. You can't take over the party when the party is majority against you. If you're on Rumble, give us a like. Same thing on YouTube. You may hear an ad on Spotify right now. And the other audio platforms, I suppose. Thanks for listening to those. Let's do this article. I think it's very good. It's going to give me an opportunity to play you guys a couple of other clips that I think are also quite interesting. There's a fantastic little exchange between Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson I saw the other day. Let's read through this. American politics, reordered, reimagined by a decade of President Trump's rise, fall, resurrection, is imploding in substantial ways. So we know what the bias is. This is coming from Axios, even though Donald Trump loves Axios apparently and is willing to give them exclusive, what did you call it? Exclusive interviews and stuff. MAGA is splintering between Trump enthusiasts and true America First believers. This is a real thing. To argue that they're the real version of whatever it is ridiculous. If you're pro-war because it's good for Israel, if you're a Christian Zionist and you think that we need to have this all going on because of some biblical prophecy, if you think it's cool that we have Zionistic preachers out there doing weird blessings on behalf of the American government at this 250th thing that happened last night, all that stuff is foreign. The people that are truly America First, and I say that like not with the there's no true Scotsman, all I need to do is do your policies benefit America and no one else. No one else is even factored in. I don't give a shit if there's any downstream effects that's positive for other people. Is it good for my country? Is it good for my people, my tribe? Is it good for the freaking bacon cheeseburger nationalists that just want to be able to go and buy ground beef and slap some cheese on it and put some bacon in a pan and fry that sucker up and get it nice and crispy and put it onto a very nice sourdough or brioche bun? Can you do that? And can you do it at a better rate? And are you interested in that? Are you one of my people? Are you the people that eat beef and cheese and bacon? Because if not, I kind of don't care what you think. You're not the dominant culture of my country. You're allowed to live here. You have a say. It's just a minority, and I'd like you to stay in the minority. I'd like you to just be protected from people trying to hurt you, and I'd like you to shut the F up while we solve problems, because the best system is the system that you came here for in the first place. Socialism is rising in popularity and clout. Democratic leaders are failing and flailing. Israel is bleeding support with both parties. This is very interesting, and this is kind of a new interesting move. So we watched, even though the majority of American Jewish people are in fact Democrats, which is why I don't know that it's necessarily a religion situation. I'm fairly confident that we're talking about something that is like it. Judaism seems to be a religion when they want it to be, an ethnicity when they want it to be, a nation when they want it to be. It's all these other weird things, and this is an issue, and maybe that's why it keeps getting conflated. But the support is being bled out. Historically, you had support on the left. That's been going away. The so-called liberal side of it, it's knocked out. They're pro-Palestinian overwhelmingly. The people that are pro-Palestinian are winning. I'm not pro-Palestinian. They're not my people either. No bacon. Not part of my tribe. AI is dividing both sides of the aisle. Yeah, because regular people don't want it and the uber rich do. The people who don't have to live near data centers are fine with it. You just had, what's his name, Byron Donalds, who's running for governor of Florida, say, to be fair, I'm not anti-data center. That guy seems awful. Everything I see about that guy seems absolutely atrocious. He's combative. He seems fake. He seems propped up. He seems like the exact thing that you would not want if you wanted decent governance. Really, really don't like it. Trump's unpopularity seems set and locked around 60%. I've seen it as high as like almost 70%. Why does it matter? This is a really well laid out kind of bullet pointed problem. Everything is up for grabs and wildly uncertain. I actually don't think it's uncertain at all. I think it's really obvious what's going to happen. House and Senate control our coin tosses in November. In the midterms, I suspect to you that it's actually going to be very obvious that it's going to go to the left. And why? Because the people that the right is trying to shame into believing that they're on the team, like you're either on the team or you're against us, you're either with us or against us mentality, that is not effective. If you're either in the Republican Party or you're going to help the socialists. I'm like, F you both. I'm not on either. I'm building up my Fs. I'm building up my faith, my family, my fitness, my firearms. I'm building up my opportunity to be able to build food supplies, farming, and so on. And I'm going to laugh at all of you assholes.
Well, except Trump wasn't trying to, bring about the downfall of Western civilization like some of these socialist candidates are in the Democratic Party. And so, I mean, look, I'm not a Democrat, but I've been amused at the infighting in New York City today. And some of it is pretty powerful constituencies. I saw a video last night in one of these victory parties of a room full of young white socialists screaming at a television with Hakeem Jeffries on it, who's poised, by the way, to possibly become the first black Speaker of the House, going, "You're next, you're next, you're next." Not a great look for the party. I saw that Mamdani went after the head of the Hispanic caucus as well. I see Tish James is even mad at Mamdani. So there's a lot of splits.
All of a sudden,
there's a lot of splits. The funny thing is that the left votes for the left. People on the right, they just may choose not to vote at all, which is kind of what Tucker Carlson was saying, which is why they're so scared. On the right, here we go. Sorry, zoom in. Populist forces that Trump awakened, devouring the establishment, inflamed a cross-partisan blend of endless war, soaring prices, and elite impunity. Okay? This is what they were pissed off at. What were people mad about? War? Well, we got a war. Soaring prices? We got those too. Elite impunity? There were no Epstein clients. And by the way, if you ask about it, you're the problem. And if we don't give you transparency, just shut up. We don't need you. Donald Trump's words, not mine. Oops. The populist forces that you brought in, the so-called big tent, it fell apart. The tent poles fell down. You have to have the tent poles holding up. And the tent poles are that we're doing the things that we all agree on. That's what keeps the tent above, falling on the ground. Oops. On the right, a historic schism over the meaning of America First has left the Trump 2024 coalition in tatters. Right. Because some people are doing knob slobbery and they want to be on the time of the winners. And they're like, yeah, we're winning. We're declaring that the announcement is the victory. And some of us want to see results. But anyway, Tucker Carlson, former Rep Marjorie Taylor Greene, you guys they're not mentioning it, but Tom Massey was run out of the party. That was a major, major wake-up call for people that were libertarian and generally like, this is the only one that doesn't suck in Congress. He's the only one introducing bills like, hey, like, what bills does he not pass? Like, you don't pass any bills, Tom Massey. Like, what does he not pass? He doesn't pass bills that says, like, let's end the Department of Education. And people are like, nope, not going to do it. Okay? These people have renounced the GOP. They've cast Trump's war as a betrayal of his own movement. I can show you in his own writing and his own platform that, in fact, it is a betrayal that's non-negotiable. Owen Schroyer saying the same thing. I just saw this argument that anybody that's saying that going to Iran was a terrible idea and any of this stuff, you know, like that, that seems to be a benefit of Israel, and it straight up Israelis saying that they're the ones who wanted the war, and our Secretary of State saying that they wanted the war. When you read that, and then the allegation is that you must be taking money from one of the Arab states. And you're not allowed to say that somebody who's 100% pro-Israel all day long in a way that is completely unrelated to America, even though you're an American, that somehow that is also weird and that you're taking money from Israel. Like, God forbid. Okay, the rupture is spreading outside of the media universe, which is the thing that helped return Trump to power. You got populist podcasters like Theo Vaughn, Tim Dillon, Candace Owens, fiercely turning on the administration. I think there's a lot more voices than that. Obviously, Tucker Carlson is also not in the establishment. He's a podcast guy. On the political left, this is the other piece of the thing that's happening. Democrats fear a socialist Tea Party type moment has arrived. They're toppling incumbents. They're humiliating party leaders. They're turning safe blue seats into laboratories for more confrontational politics. I think this is all accurate. 3 Democratic socialists were backed by this like wild dude who was barely a citizen for he's not even a decade as an American. Progressive kingmaker in New York City with this guy Zoran Mamdani. You're setting people likely to Congress because we're talking about New York. And you have a Gallup poll that found Democrats favor socialism over capitalism by 66 to 42%, which is the widest gap currently on record, with the sharpest divide among voters under 30. Yet another reason that we should have less people voting. Young people are stupid, including me when I was young. Definitely stupid. Stupid for a really long time. Basically, until I was married and had kids, I was doing kind of stupid things in my life. Making poor decisions, not financially viable decisions, not mature, and certainly not like things that I should be having a say on what was going on nationally. I'll just tell you straight up. Most men that I've met under 30, there were a very, very small number of them that I would trust with anything serious. And I love them. They're great people. Totally want to hang out with them. I totally want to be the people, like I want them to have my back in a fight. I just don't want them like managing my bank account if I happen to go unconscious for a couple of years. Because I'll be broke. And all my toys will be broken too. Zoom out. Generational collapse for the support of Israel is remaking both parties, and they call it surging anti-Semitism, clouding the increasingly toxic debate. Well, at least you got your talking point in there, right? And there's a link to more about anti-Semitism. Do you want to hear about anti-Semitism? Do you want to know more? This reminds me of Starship Troopers here. The numbers are brutal. Pew Research found that 60% of Americans now view Israel unfavorably, including 80% of Democrats and 57% of Republicans under 50. This is an insurmountable number of people because it's all young and it's all people that are growing up. And it's all, as we are aging out, the sort of boomer slop guys that want to see Barron Trump as king. That's not sticking around. It's people that are like, this is garbage. So we've got a major series of breaks. One of them is on foreign policy, specifically related to a country that shouldn't actually be that big of a deal to anyone. And it turns out that it is. And that's crazy. And the people who notice it, they're not wrong. I think they're myopic, but they're not wrong. The second thing is domestic agenda. Everyone's looking and saying this country is not going in the right way that we want it to go. How do we get it there? And the left is saying, we need more leftism. Let's go hard. And the right is saying, you can't tell me that we're victorious. We're not. We need less government. Let's cut it all. And basically, the establishment is saying, no, we want the status quo. So there's essentially 3 strong movements that are currently happening. Status quo, squishy left, squishy right. People who are conservatives, who are aligning with libertarians and other people that just sort of like anarchists are probably on my team right now, too. They all want less. And then you want people that want centralized control and they have no idea that communism ends up in killing everybody. Well, that's cool. All right. So these are the things. And then between the lines are things like AI, where we can all agree, like that's a real problem for all young people. And so as people are coming in, unchecked power of billionaires, soaring power costs, lost jobs. This is a scrambling backlash that happens between progressive labor activists and your antitrust MAGA type people and young people who see AI as a machine that's going to destroy us while making their work disposable. That all seems problematic. And then your president is deeply unpopular because he said some things and he's not doing those things. You could take the attention away from almost all this stuff, but it failed. So here's what they say. The 2028 field for presidential candidates is wide open. I kind of don't care, and maybe you don't either. The New York Times presidential primary tracker for 4 potential candidates in the Democrat Party is Kamala Harris, who is unelectable, Gavin Newsom, who will certainly be a plausible president, Pete Buttigieg, who I think is also unelectable because he's just like a slimy gay guy, and I don't think people like that, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's atrocious and kind of retarded. She's pretty, and she's as likely as Gavin Newsom. I think they're probably the same. Newsom is much slicker, though, because Newsom keeps winning executive offices, clustered within 8 points of each other. And on the Republican side, what do we got? Marco Rubio, who's a chameleon. I won't sell you some of the nasty things that were sort of like homoerotic jokes that were made by a friend of mine when I saw him in person. Tiny little man. I don't think that plays well. He's kind of like Vivek Ramaswamy says, like, I'm not a tall guy, but I am a monster compared to Marco Rubio, and I'm a monster compared to Vivek. They're just so small. And that's really hard. Like, American presidents tend to be 6 feet tall and over, for whatever it's worth. People who tell you, like, oh, you could be anything you want. You could be the president of the United States. Like, not if you're under 6 feet tall, you probably can't. Just saying. People get mad at Kash Patel for being short. I'm like, Kash Patel's my height. He's fatter, but he's short. So am I. So be it. And then lastly, you say here you've got J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance is getting attacked on all sides because he's saying things that are probably appealing to my side of the aisle more, or my side of the aisle, whatever that looks like. And yet, I don't think it's going where you want. I think people are going to lump you in, and they know he's pro-data center and a bunch of other stuff. So let's defend some socialism, shall we? Let's go to these guys. I want to, like I said, there's a ton of this stuff that needs to be looked into. Let's start right with, what's this guy, Ali something or other?
Delegation. And you're going to appear in all sorts of people's ads. All sorts of Republicans' ads to say, this is what you're going to get if you vote for the Democrats.
They're talking about, are you a commie?
You know, I think that framing is one that I've been very proud to be able to say I don't respond to, one in which I have been very intentional to say I won't be reactive. We are presenting a vision of what we're fighting for, and I think for far too long we have had politics that is reactive to what Republicans are doing. What we need is Democrats who are actually going to present a positive vision, one that sets the tone for what we should be talking about, which is the issue of affordability, which is the issue of how our budgets are moral documents. If we say that we want to invest in working people in this country, then we need to do that, and our budgets need to reflect that.
I want someone to make the argument to me that our budgets are moral documents and defend it and not just make it as a statement. That's a great talking point, by the way. Our budgets are moral documents. I'd be like, you bimbo, what's your budget? I want to know what your personal budget is. What's the most amount of wealth you've ever moved around, and how much have you accumulated in your life? She's basically been a lifelong college student from everything I can tell, this woman. So your budget is a moral document, and you are immoral because you have no money on it. A budget is a financial document, and it tells us where the money is and how we spend it. And it should be spent by the people who actually earned it. How about that argument?
If we say that we value immigration and immigration justice, we need to make sure that that is also reflective in our policy.
See, this is a crazy statement, and I don't think you're going to get regular people to get on board with it. But in New York, this sounds like a normal thing, and so they're going to test this thing out.
And so I'm very proud of a campaign that we built that centers those ideals, that centers those values, and that vision for what we need as a community. And that's how I'll continue to move forward in Congress. And I think that for far too long.
Josh Gottheimer, Democratic Congressman, he told CNN, obviously the Socialists had a big win last night. The question is, are we going to let them take over the party, or are we going to stand up and fight back? Many of us believe, as I do, that if you're a socialist, you're not a Democrat. And 2 other prominent Democrats, one a senator, one a prominent strategist that you've probably known of your whole life, have also come out for other reasons criticizing. Here they are.
The dirtbag left is having their moment. And understand, these people do not like Democrats. Not only are they not Democrats, they wish Democrats poorly.
Okay, there's a lot in there. Let's just start with James Carville. Do you wish, not only are you not a Democrat, you wish Democrats poorly, is what he's saying. Is that true?
What I wish is for working class people to have the dignity, the wages, the protections that they deserve. And if the Democratic Party is willing to stand for Medicare for all, is willing to fight for abolishing ICE and bringing them, the billions, trillions of dollars we spend on forever wars back into our communities, then that's the Democratic Party I want to be part of.
Did you hear what she just said? She said, as long as Democrats are socialists, then I'll be a Democrat. That's a really funny argument. I'm going to play it back to you actually one more time. Listen to this.
Okay, there's a lot in there. Let's just start with James Carville. Do you wish, not only are you not a Democrat, you wish Democrats poorly, is what he's saying. Is that true?
What I wish is for working class people to have the dignity, the wages, the protections that they deserve. And if the Democratic Party is willing to stand for Medicare for all, is willing to fight for abolishing ICE and bringing them, the billions, trillions of dollars we spend on forever wars back into our communities, then that's the Democratic Party I want to be part of. That's where.
Guys, if the Republican Party stands for smaller government and more individual freedom, if it stands for religious liberties and it stands for the bacon cheeseburger nationalist sort of standings where we just look at the majority culture in America and then we act accordingly with common sense. If it says that if you came here illegally and you broke a law, then we're going to deport you because you don't belong here because you broke a law. And if we say that law and order matters and that we need to have good cops and bad cops should be destroyed and bad policy should also be destroyed and that we shouldn't have that much money taken out of your pocket. You should have the most amount of freedom to spend your money your way. If that's what the Republican Party stands for, then I want to be a part of the Republican Party. I mean, it freaking doesn't. That's not what the Democrat Party stands for, by the way, which is what you just heard. The people in the establishment are like, that's not what we stand for. Here's the problem. They made a deal with the devil a long time ago. The Democrat Party said, we love the AOC. We love the squad. Like, these people are awesome. Like, we want to platform them. We want to make them the biggest new voices. They're the fresh faces. They're so fresh. They're so faced. Do you remember the Ben Shapiro bits about that? Yeah, you made this deal where you wanted to bring in the young people with these shitty ideas that don't know anything, that have never had any money, that have never managed any money, that have never done anything functional. They've never raised a family. They've never had any legitimate successes other than just like being some single lonely cat lady in New York City. You wanted to make those people in charge of stuff. So that's what your party does. The difference is that's not what the Republican Party has built itself on historically. And almost everybody that's listening to this, unless you are very, very young, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Republicans talked about being the party of small government. They were the party of individual liberties. They were the party of like the moral majority religious position, which is to say that there is a Christian nation and we're all part of it because like your laws, your English common law is based on Christian values. They come out of a Western tradition, which is non-negotiably a Christian tradition. You don't have to be Christian, it turns out. Like I said, the bacon cheeseburger nationalists, if you're in this category or this mug, you don't have to be a Christian. There's a ton of people that I love and I think they're amazing people and they have no Christianity at all. And yet we share all the most important values. And I don't care where they think their values came from because I already know where they came from. They came from the same place mine did. That's why we make the same decisions. That's why we look at the same problems and we come up with the same solutions. So it's quite simple. That's what the Republican Party ought to be. We know this already. We know that it is not that thing. And that's why I'm not going to be part of it. And that's why Tucker Carlson's not going to be part of it. And a bunch of other people are also going to sit out of it. And you cannot tell me that announcing what you want to do or what you would do if you could do is the same as actually doing it. There was this guy that some people used to listen to, and I guess they still do sometimes. And his name, nobody can really pronounce his name. It's like Italian or something like that. But he used to say things, don't fall in love with politicians, fall in love with outcomes. Which is a really easy way to say it's not about the party, it's about what it does for you. And what does my party that I would theoretically be most likely to be ideologically aligned with do for me? I don't know. Lies? Gives me a flyover? Shitty celebration? See if we got some other funny ones here. Throw money at people who say this. Let me show you a crazy reason why the funniest thing that people are uniting on left and right, and this continues to be this like ongoing rift and divide. I don't think it's the most important thing. That's why it's going to be at the end of this program. But there is a funny little bit where the Israelis and people who have worked inside the Israeli government pop up. They keep arguing that they should be able to use nuclear weapons. And it's really, really unsettling. So I'm going to play that, and then I'm going to tell you what it sounds like for those of us that are kind of irritated with it, which is that you sound like a entitled psychotic person. This guy looks like a villain in, I don't know, an action movie. He's a former Israeli intelligence worker, from what I understand, and he's making
Israel's existence is not negotiable.
Can't negotiate.
And it does not depend on superpowers or the public opinion. And if they keep pushing Israel to the corner, they are the ones who are going to suffer the most. Israel hasn't used everything that it has. And Israel, on a purpose, did not expose the advanced weapons that it has for a very important reason. We don't want the enemy to know what we are having. And now, at this point, we're just playing around. So this is the clear message to those who think that they can annihilate Israel. Behind Israel is existence.
Annihilate is annihilate. He even talks like a bad guy. We are going to annihilate you. He does sound kind of Borat-like. He sounds like a villain. He looks like the bad guy. He looks like the person that you're rooting against in the action movie, right? And he's going to make it to the end. He's like the final boss.
Christian Zionists tell Israelis they're God's chosen people. They're special in the eyes of God, which is absurd. Chosen people. It's absurd. It's like your kid takes his diaper and smears crap on the wall, and you're like, that's art. How do you think that child grows up? You think that kid grows up to be like balanced, well-adjusted?
No, an entitled psychotic.
Exactly. An entitled psychotic.
An entitled psychotic is the exact thing that I came up with while I was kind of discussing with these people on a Twitter space the other day. That was Alex Jones and that was Tucker Carlson having a discussion about like what the problem is. When you have people that have never gotten discipline, and we're talking about, in this case, the sort of like the state of Israel, it's been kind of fawned on by the religious right. And then it also used to be kind of the darling of the political left. And so both of these people kind of gave them a big pass. And there was this bad and America's fault sort of permissiveness. I likened it to having an awful boundary set up with your child. And they just came up with the same thing. Now, I think it's a little bit more than that. If you give your child no boundaries early on, and everything they do is brilliant, and everything is great, and you enable everything they're about, and then when they're a teenager and they're starting to do like some real problems where they're coming out and maybe they're involved in like some property crime, or maybe they're starting to get into crimes of violence, or maybe they're starting to cross the line with like sexuality or whatever. And you start trying to put the hammer down on them, but you've got this huge, like their entire life, you've basically been doing the opposite of that. You've been kind of encouraging and enabling them. Like, you're partially to blame for that, are you not? And I think Tucker Carlson is actually saying that this country has to have a reckoning internally, saying that we created this problem. Like, this monster is something that Americans made. I think that's kind of where the entitled psychotic thing, you create entitled psychotics like that. And by the way, we had some weird people saying some other crazy stuff last night, even at the thing where we started off with the Alexis Wilkins national anthem. You had Zionist pastors who think that Israel has to be occupying the Holy Land for the coming of Jesus. People who think that they can bring about the fulfillment of biblical prophecies through their own actions, they freak me out. It's like they have no idea what anything in Christianity stands for or means or what it's all about. So like all that kind of freaks me out. I'm going to play you, let's see here. I think I've got one more really good thing I wanted to punch out there. Let's do this. I've got a pretty good clip answering those guys. And this is the problem with the argument. If the argument is we're dealing with entitled psychotics, the left and the right are both kind of pissed off about this idea, and America should be focusing on America itself. I think that the hard left is actually doing kind of an America-only position as well. They just want to bring all the immigrants to America, so they want everything to be America. And Americans that are on the hard right were like, we want America to be for Americans, and we want only Americans to get it. So that might be the fundamental divide between the two, if we were kind of coming together and seeing things from similar angles, but just slightly off. The issue is that the middle, the squish middle, which used to be part of the opposition forces, the Daniel Bongino types, they just want to tell you that you're hateful. And by the way, they're amazing. I actually had somebody who haven't talked to in a while reach out to me and say, I still listen to Dan Bongino sometimes. He's the only one that's trying to keep the MAGA movement together, but he basically is unlistenable at this point. For those of you that haven't listened to him in a while, and that's many of us, and I count myself as a sometimes infrequent, occasional listener previously of the Daniel Bongino Show. This is apparently what you're tuning in to catch at this point, and it seems completely unhinged. Remember, if you were going to ask him causes dear to his heart, he would tell you Israel, the defense of Israel. I didn't say that.
Anyone telling you right now that this war on the Jews that's going on is about specifically and only the Jews is full of shit. It is not only about the Jews. The Jews are a convenient target for many people because they know they can find Jew hatred everywhere. The real war is against Western civilization. And I take that back, civilization in general. Ladies and gentlemen, don't believe me, believe the receipts. You think I'm kidding? You think this fight, Daria Lisa Chevalier, Mamdani, and the anti-Semites out there, you really believe this is about the Jews only? Listen to their own words. Put up that tweet about Western civilization. Daria Lisa Chevalier, who won a primary for the United States House of Representatives last night and will likely be a congresswoman with a massive amount of power, was the co-founder of a group, the Columbia University Apartheid
Is Dan just like really jealous that he couldn't win a House seat when he wanted to, or that he couldn't win the Senate seat? He's super focused on things like in New York. What did you think New Yorkers did? Wasn't he saying for years that if you live in New York, it's time to get out, and if it's not bad enough yet, it's bad enough for most people to leave, and that's why I left, and that's why I live in Florida. And he still keeps his New York phone number, by the way. He loves that New York phone number. Still wants that 917. Still wants to be associated with a New Yorker tough guy. But yeah, New York is not America, man. So what are you even talking about? But this concept that if you are anti-Israel, which they've conflated with saying that you have a problem with the Jews, which I don't do, but apparently the Israelis love to do. All of this stuff is now becoming you're anti-American. And Mark Levin has said it. You guys have heard me play his clips here. It's getting broader and it's getting wilder. So there's Daniel Bongino saying if you're anti-Jewish, if you're anti-Israel, you're anti-American, that's factually inaccurate. If you're bacon cheeseburger nationalist, you probably don't keep kosher because there's a bacon involved. You got a problem with that. 2 more clips I'm going to show you. Randy Fine, who's absolutely detestable, and he's a gross Republican. He's also just a gross person. He's like uber fat and nasty looking. And then also John Fetterman, who's like, mentally retarded, but also happens to say the exact same words. Aren't we supposed to recognize the op when it comes down? If you're anti-American, it's anti-Israel is anti-American, and those things are the same thing, and we're supposed to believe that. We had Mark Levin telling us that Jews founded America. I've heard what's his name? Alan Dershowitz pop up of late and say that you have to give credit to Jewish people for founding the United States. It's like the weirdest shit you've ever heard. It's revisionist history, every bit as bad as people on the political left who would tell you that like America was founded because of slavery or other nonsense. These people live in the same exact garbage. They just, run talking points out. Here's what it sounds like.
Look, I think the vice president owes the American people an apology. I mean, making an offensive statement that Israel only exists because the United States created it is disrespectful to millions of Americans, many of whom have had relatives who died in the Holocaust. Israel.
What the F does that even have to do with anything? Saying that Israel exists because of America is disrespectful to Americans who had family members die in the Holocaust? You've literally have zero logical glue tying these sentences together. Anyway, let's continue on with this fat guy talking.
Israel was created through the blood, sweat, and tears of the Jews in the aftermath of the greatest tragedy in the history of the world. And America wasn't always a great friend to Israel in its earliest formational days.
The problem with me listening to so many different news sources right now and different people saying things that are not nice, I'll hear people go like, yeah, well, what about the complete destruction of the people in the original USSR? What about the fact that the Bolsheviks, who were like secular Jews, were going out there and just massacring people at a rate way higher than the Holocaust? Are we going to just let that go? But of course, we have to say it's the greatest tragedy that's ever happened. There's a lot of tragedies that have happened, and pretty much all of them have to do with like aggressive leftism and some of this other awful stuff. So they're all end up being on my enemy list. Let him finish his thought.
Some of the rhetoric has been pretty terrible, and I'm not going to be afraid to call it out.
Yeah, and I would say Israel exists because of God, not because of the United States or anything that America has done.
Exactly.
Thanks so much there, Tony Perkins. Israel exists because of God. Blah, blah. They've invited me on that show a whole bunch, Tony Perkins show, whatever it is. And there's always somebody who co-hosts it whenever I've been on there. But I've been on that program. I think I'll pass from the future. Let me give you one last little example of it. Again, I promise you John Fetterman. So we went from a like kind of a fat retard to brain dead, mentally injured retard. All retarded.
All right, let me ask this.
Oh, it's Hannity.
Why the deep hatred for Israel? Why?
Yeah, because I mean, if you have such contempt for Israel, I mean, of course, you're also anti-American and you're anti-Western civilization, and you're seem anti-capitalism and the American way of life. I mean, now they're all socialists, of course, and now there's communists and now Marxists, and now they're proud of this. I know, of course, we have P. Hustle in Maine. That's another one. He's a self-avowed, communist too. Now that's not even looked down on and a significant part of the Democratic Party right now.
I award him no points. We're all dumber for having heard that answer, and may God have mercy on his soul. So you've heard the people, we play them here all the time. We have the dumbest people representing us in Congress. Your neighbor, whoever your neighbor is, on one side of the aisle or the other, like one side of your home or the other side, even if you live out in a rural area, one of your neighbors is smarter than most of the Congress people that you've listened to. Because like some of them talk like a Valley Girl and they're like this, and some of them are Republicans and they're Democrats, and some of them are so old they don't even know where they are anymore, and some of them are literally actually, mentally injured. They had some sort of stroke and a cerebral vascular event where they can no longer process information, and they say retarded things like being anti-Israel is anti-American and you're anti-Western civilization, whatever. And they wear hoodies when they're congressmen. Like like you guys see, I get it to work for me. I get to wear what I want. When you go work in some jobs, there's a uniform. Turns out the uniform of a congressman is you have to wear an American suit. Do you know how I know that? Bacon Cheeseburger Nationalism says our national costume is a tie and a dress shirt and a freaking blazer at the minimum. But it's probably a suit. And it's cheaper to buy a suit than it's ever been in the history of the world to buy a suit. Or you can wear a hoodie and just be a dirtbag and like wander around and babble nonsense that makes no sense. This is how I know we're not voting our way out of it. We've got dumb people in charge. You can't put people that make terrible decisions in charge of your car. You can't put the drunkest driver in and then be like, God's gonna get us home. Like, maybe, but that home might be a prison or it might be a morgue. You might not be able to survive it. It's so disappointing. Every day I wake up and I'm like, will something good happen? Yes, Donald Trump turned down the housing bill. So basically something bad didn't happen. The good thing is that they didn't allow a bad thing to happen. You know what's really good? I will tell you this. And by the way, if you're watching over on YouTube and Rumble, make sure you guys are liking the videos. If you guys are on Spotify, give us a comment. We appreciate all that. I'm not going to play you an ad right now, but I just wanted to let you guys know that we're still doing those things. Let me play you my favorite thing. I don't do a lot. I do a lot of like stuff I hate, which is pretty much everybody in politics. I really do. I love guns. I had a conversation with my dad about guns the other day, and for 30 minutes straight, I just was like, blah, 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 blah. I just rambled about gun stuff because I absolutely love it. I also really like sketch comedy, and these dudes are doing the hands down best sketch comedy. It's the weirdest shit you've ever seen. It's deep into my strange sense of humor. If you guys don't get it, don't feel bad. I do think it's a little bit niche, but it makes me laugh out loud, which doesn't ever happen. It makes my wife laugh out loud, and we have a real weird sense of humor together, so that's why we get together great. This group is called On Boys Media, I think. On Boys. You can find them on Instagram. I will aggressively promote them. I think they are doing the funniest, weirdest comedy skits currently being done anywhere on the web. And I'm going to share the first one that I ever saw, and I've watched it maybe 50 times. And I don't think that's not a exaggeration. I've just watched it over and over. I've sent it to strangers. I sent it off to Viva Fry to check it out. And I'm just like, bro, On Boys, this is the Bing Bong skit. You're going to want to share this. You're probably going to want to clip it. That's fine. You can find them on Instagram, and I wish you would. And I will make sure that I put them over on our Kyle Seraphin show, The Locals. Tonight, we're doing the call-in show. So if you guys want to be part of that, join as a member of YouTube. It's $5 a month there. It's $2 a month over on X if you want just the phone number. If you want to have the other stuff that we're putting up, be on either YouTube or be on Locals. And we appreciate your support. And phone number will be available to those who want to be calling it. The Bing Bong skit. All right, sorry, I talked too much. Here we go.
It sounds kind of cool. Little snake boy. Stricken. Here comes the snake boy in the snake mobile. I think I see.
This is not the Bing Bong skit, but it's okay. I'm going to play that for you too. We went long today. I'm going to give you this. This is stricken. You're never going to use the word stricken again in the same way.
The problem, huh? It sounds kind of cool. Little snake boy. Stricken. Here comes the snake boy in the snake mobile. I think I see the problem, huh? Oh, yeah? Yeah. You're poor, and your car don't work. Stricken. I'm not poor, man. Stricken. Then how come your car don't work? And you're bent over the hood all poor style. It just happens sometimes, man. Not if you accumulate wealth. Stricken. Are you employed? Man, I was, all right? I literally just got laid off last week. Yep, that's how it starts. Stricken. Look, I'll be fine, all right? I'm just going through a little rough patch. That's an extremely poor thing to do. And really say. Is. Oh, okay, well, what do you do, Mr. Big Shot? Oh, I like that. Call me that. Come on, tell me, what do you do? You ever heard of bread? Yeah. I make it. You make bread? Uh-huh. And dough. And cheddar. Stricken. Why do you keep saying stricken? Because you've been struck. You're stricken. Poverty stricken. I'm not poverty stricken. I have plenty of money saved. Then why your car don't work? Well, that sounds cool. How much for the snake mobile?
He turns it on you. Okay, I got to do the Bing Bong one. The Bing Bong one is because I think it showed up in my feed because I watch way too many like civilian auditors or First Amendment auditors, and these people end up being like a-holes all the time. They're awful. They're freaking awful. They're out there videoing and pissing off cops, and like, guess what? Like, they are allowed to do that, but they're the worst people. This is the funniest version they're in. One of you guys just said, I promise Kyle loves the show Archer. I freaking love Archer. If you like Archer, then you guys have the same sense of humor with me. This is the Bing Bong skit. Sorry, too much lead up. If you ever call anybody stricken, please put it in a comment below. If you will call somebody in the future stricken when they're broke, please tell me that too. He says, stricken. Okay, here's the Bing Bong skit. You're going to say this a lot too, I promise you. No. Oh, it went away. Hold on. Why is the audio down? I got to bring it back up. Here we go.
You can't be filming out here. Yes, I can. It's public property. As long as I don't take my Bing Bong out, I'm good. Well, my wife says you were filming her. Your bitch is in public. I can film your bitch. I'd keep her on a tighter leash if you don't want her making movies. Bing Bong's not out. I'm good. Oh, you want to get disrespectful now? No disrespect, gay sir. I know my rights. I know my lefts, too, so I suggest you back it up before I'm forced to smack it up, which I don't want to have to do to you. All right, I'm just going to call the cops. Hit them up. My Bing Bong ain't out. I'm chilling.
911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, I got this guy over here filming outside my business.
Ain't out, officer. Is his Bing Bong out?
Officer. Well, no, but he's...
Then he's good.
He's good.
Look, man, can you just get out of here? It's bad for business. Yeah, well, so is neglecting market research, but you did that when you made your big old wife the face of your company. The community's spoken, fool. We don't like your chick. What are you talking about? My wife's extremely popular. Yeah, with dogs. She's always dropping crumbs and shit. Look, man, just get out of here. Is my Bing Bong out? No. Then I'm good. On boys.
They're called On Boys. Seriously, there's probably something wrong with you if you thought that was great. If you ever want to end an argument from here on out, I think you should do it with the Bing Bong argument. If your Bing Bong ain't out, you're good. Literally never called it a Bing Bong before, but it's in my lexicon now. And now it's in yours. I heard it. You can't unheard it. Did you hear the gay sir thing? I even used that. I even used it today on accident when I was talking about that dude that's the ghoul that's eating Charlie Kirk's corpse. All right. We had a nasty series of things that are frustrating today. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Call in and tell me about what's going on this evening. We start at 8 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock in the central time zone. I think it's like 6 o'clock if you're in a different time zone, and it could be 5 o'clock in another time zone that's further over in the ocean or close to the ocean. I don't know what time zones are. I'll see you guys tonight. I hope you have a good one. Until then, God bless. Bing Bong's out. Not out. I'm good.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.